call the Vermilion County Council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. All right, roll call. Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mr. Somerville.
Here.
Ms. Brown. Here. Ms. James are present. Mr. Weir.
Here.
Mr. Bose.
Here.
And Mr. Brown.
Here.
Thank you, everyone. All right, the first item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from May 13th, 2024. Are there any additions, corrections, or comments regarding those minutes? Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from May 13th. Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Weir, a second from Mr. Brown to approve the meeting minutes from May 13th, 2024. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state no. Minutes are approved. Next, we have the monthly treasurer's report. We have the monthly report, and we also have two of the interest reports, one from April and one from May. Are there any questions or comments regarding this? Okay. No comments or questions? All right. Next, we have a few transfers. The first one requires a vote. The clerk's office is asking to move $1,000 from janitor and election services into the travel absentee voters. It says she does not have a mileage budget for the election, so it comes out of the travel absentee voters. And now I do not have enough in this fund to pay for the travel board during the general election. She is wanting to transfer that money over.
Motion made.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion from Mr. Weir, a second from Mr. Bose. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed state no. Transfer is approved. Alright. And the next couple transfers are reporting only, so they did not require a vote. So is there any questions on reporting onlys? There's three of them.
First one was about 1,000, twice, it's just one
Yeah.
thousand, that was his mayor.
Yeah, it's... Yep. That line should be...
Mother, can you turn that TV down?
Okay.
Well, I have one question.
Which one?
One for public safety.
Okay.
Sheriff Holcamp, there was on your request for transfer, which was just a report only. What was the? It says the cost of the body scanner at the jail increased by $900.
It's the yearly service contract.
Service. Okay, it wasn't like the purchase of it or something. We already purchased it. So okay.
No, we increased it from last year, and then we get the bill this year, and it's gone up again.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
No.
All right. All right. Instead of moving on to additional appropriations, we are going to skip to new business right now. We have a couple people here, and one on Zoom or whatever we want to, online. That way we can allow them to go ahead and meet and then be done. We're going to start with new business B and C, and then we'll go back to additional appropriations. Item number B is the annual TIF presentation. So, who would like?
We can talk about it. The annual TIF presentation, does everybody have a copy? I think Kylie handed those out there, all the council members.
Boy, this is like the blind leading the blind.
Sorry, we kind of moved you ahead so you don't have to wait for all the other.
My
You
dad
don't want
thought
to.
he was here for that.
No, Andy's just here for the long stuff.
He's here for Part C.
All right, well, anyway, you all should have got a copy of the redevelopment gateway TIF report that gets submitted every year, but now we are required to make a public presentation to council and commissioners. You'll notice that the personnel for 2023, we're 4 of us are here. Brandon Ruth is no longer a member, but he was until 12/31. We have no employees. We did have some expenses that were paid from TIF funds. We bought some land for $12,000, and we had professional services to the tune of $111. But we did receive $463,432 in revenue, and I'm sure as heck hope you don't have any questions, because I probably can't answer them. Maybe Scott can fill you in, but for those of you on council, keep in mind your president and Kelly are both on this board, so if you have any questions, you can ask them too.
We're happy to answer anything. So, any questions for John? No? Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
The next item we'll cover tonight is the resolution to approve the lease between the Vermillion County Economic Development and Vermillion County Redevelopment for the Elanco bonds.
I will give a brief introduction to that one. I sent everyone a very long email last night. This is not the first time we've discussed the Elanco bonds, because to refresh everyone's memory, we've been working on a project with Elanco whereby they would invest $150 million in new equipment in their facilities in Vermillion County. And in exchange for that, we would issue bonds that would we pledge 80% of their projected tax payments on that new equipment to pay for bonds that will generate money, cash, for Elanco right now. It would also, 20% of their tax payments on the new equipment would go back to redevelopment commission to be used for other projects that are serving and or benefiting the area. We've been through a lot of roads with this. Originally, Elanco was only going to invest $100 million. That kept increasing, so the numbers kept changing. We came back to you, though, in the meanwhile, while their investment was increasing, which was good, the interest rates were going up, which was bad. So we had to come back to the council. I believe it was early this year, very late in 2024, or 2023, excuse me, to request an increase to the projected interest rates on the bond, so we bumped that up to 8%. We had thought that would be sufficient, and we thought that that would enable us to go ahead and get the bonds rated and sold. Bonds like this, we take them to a rating agency that looks at credit worthiness of the bonds and then gives them a rating. We had gone through this once when we thought we were going to do it before. We got an 8 rating, which, as I mentioned, sounds really good. It is good. It's solid, very solid for a county our size. But this, reminds you, it goes on a scale of AAA minus, AA plus. So A doesn't sound quite, it's not the highest, but it's very solid. We had this exact structure, though. Originally, it involved, there needs to be, this is a very convoluted structure, the way this works. It involves lease financing, which Tom and Andy can speak to better than I can. But when the county issues any kind of debt, there's issues of constitutional debt limit that we have to be cognizant of and thoughtful about. And so, and in order to structure economic development bonds, we have to be careful about how to do that so we don't impact the county's constitutional debt limit. So we had some assets that were kind of in the middle of this, and in the original drafts of this, we were going to use the equipment Elanco was bringing in as the asset. And then there were all these leases and subleases and sub-subleases back and forth. It kind of went a big circle back to Elanco, but we had that rated by S&P. S&P gave it an A+. We went back to them. You have to go back. And they didn't like that structure this time. They felt like that having the equipment at the heart of this was too complicated, too risky, and it would cause them to evaluate the bonds not as well as they had before. So we reconfigured. Tom or Andy or both had the suggestion of using a hard asset, immovable asset. asset and one owned by the county to serve as the asset in the middle of this. So what has become more popular lately is the use of county roads or city streets as the asset, because they don't go anywhere. We can assign values to them, and we believe that that would make the folks at S&P more happy with the structure of this deal and make them more likely to give us a good rating, which would result in a lower interest rate on the bonds and hopefully then result in successful sales of those bonds. So the documents in front of you tonight are a resolution that would authorize some changes to the proposed lease. Now, the lease, there were some updates to the lease at the very last minute. I think I actually read the thing, it's like 30 pages. But essentially, the roads are conveyed from the county to an entity called the Vermillion County Economic Development Corporation, which is much like the jail building corporation that we have. Remember, we don't own the jail. We sold the jail to a building corporation that now leases it back to the county. But this entity is controlled by the commissioners. They appoint the people on this corporation just as they did with the jail corporation. So the roads would go to the corporation, they would then sublease them to the redevelopment commission, and in exchange, the redevelopment commission would make lease payments from the TIF revenues to the corporation, which is actually the one that issues the bill. So, but ultimately, the roads, and again, it's kind of a big circle, right? You just have to have an asset in there that's being leased and some reason to be making lease payments. The payments would come from Elanco's TIF revenues, or TIF tax payments. There are taxes on the increased assessed value of the property. There is a backup to this. Elanco will be signing a taxpayer agreement. I think Tom may have the right terminology, where they guarantee, even if there is some shortfall in their taxes, their taxes, their assessments are lower, they don't bring in the equipment, let's say they pull the equipment out to move it someplace else, they still have to pay that payment. And the emergency backup is a county tax levy. But if Elanco, as I've said before, if Elanco pulls out, we have trouble anyway. So safe as we can make it. And so we have to get, there's a timeline in your packet that goes through all these steps. We have to get this approved by the commissioners, we have to get it approved by the redevelopment commission, we have to get it approved by the Economic Development Corporation, and then we go back through this rating process once again. If we get good rating, then we can sell the bonds pretty quickly once we get that rating. So we have two guests with us. Present in the commissioner's courtroom tonight is Andy Mauser from Baker Tilly. He's probably a familiar face to some of you. He's been doing financial work for the county for, I don't know, forever. And then also joining us remotely here is Tom Pittman, who's a lawyer at Barnes & Thornburg in Annapolis. He literally wrote the book on TIF and redevelopment commissions. There's a handbook that I give out to all my redevelopment commission members. Tom is the author of that. He's been involved in, both of them have been involved in a lot more of this than I have, and can eliminate what I just said and correct everything I just said and answer any questions anyone may have. So, that's the background of why we're here.
And in my case, I've literally been working with the county since the beginning of time.
Great summary, thanks, Scott. And really the reason, this has been really contemplated as a lease bond the entire time. It's very similar to your jail transaction. Indiana, cities, towns, counties, schools all have constitutional debt limits, and that's 2% of 1/3 of your assessed value. And it's just with the cost of projects nowadays, it's very difficult to do projects without going through a lease financing because there's just not enough debt limit available. So most cities, towns, counties, schools, libraries, typically when they issue projects or bonds for projects, it's typically done through a building corporation, redevelopment authority, one of those mechanisms. And your debt limit would be about $6.3 million. We're talking a bond probably in the $9 to $10 million range at this point. So obviously it's over that threshold, which is why we are looking at the lease mechanism and have been really since this was started in 2021. And I know Scott mentions several numbers in his email. This will be a $150 million investment. That $150 million will be across a 10-year period, so there will be some ramp up in the TIF as that equipment's installed over the next decade. But we do think that that'll generate a TIF stream sufficient for about a $9 million bond. And I think with where interest rates are and with where Elanco is with their investment, we actually just got their recent personal property filings. They have to file each year by May 15th, and they're actually ahead of kind of where they had told us they would be. So it looks like investment is ahead of schedule, which is a good thing. So hopefully be in that $9 to $10 million range, and we think that'll generate probably somewhere between 6 and 8 million in proceeds. And most of that money, there's about $1 million that will be set aside in a reserve, which will be the county's money, and that money will stay there through the life of the bond issue. So you may be wondering, why are we issuing $9 million to get $7 million in proceeds? A good chunk of that, about $1 million, is again money that will just be set aside in reserve, kind of as extra cushion in case there were ever any issues. And then, as Scott mentioned, the leased asset will be existing roads of the county, so there'll be roads, valued at the same amount of the size of the bonds, and then those will be leased from the county basically to itself, kind of through the different county entities. But does not change the ownership or the use of the roads. Those roads will stay open and operational. And then we had gone through this process with the equipment from Elanco serving as the lease premises. Standard & Poor's, the rating agency, periodically will go back and change their methodologies. And here in the last 2 to 3 years, we've seen kind of a transition from using privately owned assets as lease premises to using existing roads and streets. So your resolution is pretty straightforward. Really just kind of unwinds the previous lease and sublease structure that included Elanco's equipment, and then replaces it here with just the lease structure that will include those county roads. It also does reapprove some of the bond parameters that the council had approved in the past. So you'll see those in section 1. Includes a maximum annual lease rental of about $950,000. We anticipate that amount should be about $880,000, and again, that'll be fully covered from Elanco's TIF. We do show a maximum interest rate of 8%. I think with current interest rates, we're probably in the 5 to 6% range, so hopefully come in, a couple percentage below that 8% that was approved. You had also in the past approved a maximum bond size of $13 million. Again, I think we'll most likely come in around 9 or 10 million. And then it did also approve a 25-year bond, and we will be issuing the 25-year bond to maximize the TIF stream. So, be glad to answer any questions on the process or any of those parameters. And I know Tom's on as well, so Tom, certainly anything to add?
Yeah, can people hear me?
We can't hear. Oh, wait a minute.
Can you hear me?
No, we can't hear you. Tom.
Froze.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. Yeah, I'm good though. Yeah, I don't know either. Let's see.
Can you hear us, Tom?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Can you wave at us, Tom?
Can you hear? Can you hear me now?
I think it's froze.
No.
Yeah.
No, wait.
Oh,
He's frozen up there then.
Oh, he's on.
Can anybody hear me?
So is there
Well.
2 payments?
No.
Oh. You heard him for a second.
Okay, let me talk louder. How about this?
You're coming good.
I am coming through.
Yes.
I just wanted to say I have nothing to add.
I love
So is there 2 payments made during the year of $950,000 to each semi-annual installment?
Good question. Yeah, the $950,000 is the maximum for the year, so that amount will be broken into 2 semi-annual payments.
Okay.
It's about 400.
Okay.
400 to 500,000.
Again, I mentioned this a little bit, but that 80% would go towards bonds. That would still leave about, once this totally gets ramped up, it's about 300,000 a year that would go back to redevelopment for other projects. So it's a not insignificant amount that the county would receive if this were to get the projections that Baker Tilly is providing to us. We can also use that as, some emergency backup money if there were any kind of other shortfalls. So we will have a fully funded debt service reserve on day one. I should have mentioned that, but we can also tap into.
That's a great point, Scott. And there's also, so we're basically doing it. 80% will go towards the bonds, 20% will remain with the county. So as Scott mentioned, that's about $300,000 a year. We're about $6 million across the life of it. And then bonds will actually be structured at 125% coverage. So for every dollar of debt service, there'll be $1.25 of TIF, and that extra 25% coverage will also be money that'll come back to the county as well. And that's worth probably another $200,000 or $300,000 a year, maybe $4 to $5 million. So we're talking potentially 10, 11 million across the life of it.
How does the Economic Development Council, they receive the roads from the county itself?
Yeah, there's an entity called the Economic Development Corporation.
Or, I'm sorry,
Established a couple of years ago.
EDC.
They will get the roads, then they will lease the roads.
But I mean, when you say they get the roads, is that just an act that the commissioners create an ordinance or something?
They would lease the roads or sublease the roads to the redevelopment commission, and there'd be a lease, which you have,
Yes.
that then calls for payments that are equal to the debt service on the bonds every year.
Then, once that's satisfied, once everything's completed, the process with the...
Reverses itself.
Okay.
And it's not all the county roads, because Andy was telling me there's some places that have run out of roads. They just, or have come close to running out of roads because they've done this so often with their roads. We tried to pick roads. Our county roads are, like the county road I live on has like 6 different names as it winds. So we tried to find roads that were straight. Like Range Line is a good one. There were a couple others that were 4 or 5 miles where it was straight and it didn't have to change the name of it from 1100 to 1150 or 1200 or something. So we ended up with like 14 miles of roads, I think. Pretty small in comparison to the amount of road mileage that we have. So there are, if we needed to do this again, there would be other roads that we could do it with. They might be more shorter.
A lot more, or more roads, but shorter distances.
Yeah, shorter distances. There's a lot of miles. It's just most of the roads, if you start trying to find them, they don't go more than a mile without having some sort of bend in them, or they dead end here and they pick back up here or something. So it gets a little crazy.
Would the state mind if we use 63? Can we
As long as we took care of it.
re-rent it or
I'm not sure that's a good deal.
That might not be a good deal right now.
Some communities will lease like assets like the courthouse. So that would be an option too, and because this I don't believe is currently leased, so you have that option. The roads are just typically a little bit simpler, and you have the ability, if there were ever an issue with this road, you could replace it with that road. Or if you had the courthouse, if there were ever an issue with the courthouse, then that would create concern for the rating agency as far as making the payments, because we just have to have something that can, that's operational, that can be leased, that we can make payments on, to make payments on the bonds. So.
Not that it plays into this, but if the county, during that time, the county doesn't have any authority to like vacate roads that are on that, they have to.
It's not.
So it's out of, but the maintenance is still on the county.
Yeah,
so if there's a storm, it damages the road, we have to fix that road. We can't just close it and leave it closed because it's too expensive to fix it or something of that nature.
These are all, it's like Range Line Road, Ernie Powell Road.
Yeah.
These are.
You wouldn't want to do that. I mean, you wouldn't want to leave it closed, but I'm just saying we have to maintain them. We do anyway, but that's part of the fact that they're an asset. So.
And for bond purposes, if a road was closed for a year for whatever reason, you could substitute this road over here to get to the same value, and you'd be fine.
Okay. Does the condition of the road matter? Sort of.
Most of these roads actually are now in pretty good shape.
Okay.
From there's a couple way up north I didn't know.
I didn't know if like over the life of this, if a road deteriorates, if they say, well, it's worthless, now we need more. Or...
It's really just kind of
Just all in paper.
Yeah.
We need an asset, and roads are good assets because it's hard to move them. that was one of the issues the rating agency had. Then there were issues about what if this equipment is damaged or something like that, and taken out of service and stuff like that. Much more unlikely, much less likely that something like that would happen. It could, but probably not.
So tonight, they're asking us to pass this resolution, number 2024-05. This is a resolution of the Vermillion County Council approving a lease between the Vermillion County Economic Development Corporation as lessor and the Vermillion County Redevelopment Commission as lessee, and approving related items. And you have a copy of the resolution and of the lease in front of you.
I'll make a motion.
I second.
I have a motion from Mr. Somerville, a second from Mr. Weir to approve resolution number 2024-05. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
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 All those opposed state no. Resolution is approved. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. You too. Alright, so we're going to go back up to the additional appropriations now. We have a couple of those this evening. The first additional appropriation is for the amount of $36,500 for economic development. This is for the management services being performed by BCS Management for the I-74 corridor project. Originally, were going to come to us for part of a bill, but so that you'll see documentation in the back for the first invoice. But the amount we have in front of us is to completely pay for all the services at once. So we can put that in your budget, so as the invoices come in, we can pay those. So. Pardon?
Is that okay then?
Yes, that's the full amount. Right, Amanda? Is that the full? Amanda Heber's here with Economic Development.
Okay, so initially, it was going to come out, like when you look at the documentation, it was going to come out of the commissioners, but they don't have the appropriate fund to be able to disperse those, so there was no professional services. So the first quarter payment, a quarter of the total invoice has been paid at this point, but between now and the end of the year, we will have to be paying the rest of that bill. So felt that it was a much simpler process to make sure that the total amount was appropriated, so that way as those invoices come in from BCS, then we can pay them as they come.
I told him that, we talked about this at our redevelopment meeting, and I think I briefly talked to him about it last week. They will need to do some more appropriations, because to create a TIF district, there's some additional financial and legal fees that will have to be incurred. Those won't come until a little later, but, so probably another $25,000 to $30,000 will need to be appropriated in order to pay for the full cost of setting up the new TIF district on I-74, something like that. $30.
That'll be for the TIF though, right? And on top of this, yeah.
Not for Lana, but
Right.
you have to have a tax impact statement for any kind of TIF district you create, and then somebody's got to write up all the, there's 15 different resolutions and ordinances that have to be drafted. So there's legal and financial, that costs do not include that. So she'll do the plan, but and she's done a great job. I mean, she sent me some great pictures the other day, some real good stuff, marketing stuff. She's been great with landowners, with the, certainly with the IURC and Aqua, working with them, but there are some mechanical parts of this, like, that have to be done, like the financial tax, it's called a tax impact statement, and then on the legal side. That's not covered in the project.
So this covers Lana till the end of the year?
This is just Lana, yeah.
Yes.
But it covers her whole contract.
Oh, everything she needs to do will be included in this?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And there is some in my professional services that are there now. There was one contract that got adjusted, so that amount was lowered. So there'll be a little bit available, Scott and I talked about.
Budget hearings last year, we did only really put enough money to cover her current contracts and the professional services, so there really isn't the extra amount in there right now for much.
Well, I think she's doing some good work, and this is money well spent here, so.
Are we ready for a motion?
Mm-hmm.
So she's looking for a motion. I'd like to make that motion to approve or to appropriate $36,500
I'll
for
second.
economic development.
I have a motion from Mr. Weir, second from Mr. Brown, to approve $36,500 for economic development professional services. And to note, this is coming from the Economic Development Fund. So, any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriations approved. Thanks, Amanda.
Bud.
The next additional appropriation is from the Commissioners in the amount of $50,000 for programs. They would like to help sponsor Get the Lead Out program with Commissioners, Soil and Water, and the Health Department are working on creating this program to help test citizens' water for lead in the pipes and homes. It has been advertised in 3 different locations, in public safety, certified chairs, and an improvement fund. That's why you have it on 3 different sheets. So we can have the options of funding if needed.
What's the point in this? We already have free water testing, right?
There's a lot more to this than that.
Well, explain that, please.
Currently, there's 2 parts of the situation. Number 1, we're going after to promote well testing in the county. It does cost. It's not done, it's done free, but they pay for it over there. Someone pays for it.
Yeah.
It's always been paid for. Number 1 is we want to work on getting funding to be more proactive. This is not a thing going on just with the commissioners. It's commissioners, it's the Board of Health, and it's the Soil Conservation Service. So there's 3 partners involved in this, and they're all putting money in it. The state came in the other day when we had our meeting, and they was very impressed with what we're doing by being proactive. I know for a fact that the wells, I'm on a well myself. We take our well water in, we have it checked. But what we're trying to do, trying to make number 1, make people more aware of well safety. I have a friend who his son died from his well, and they couldn't find out what it was, and he did pass away. And so I got a kind of a personal thing for me on this, but we're trying to get more so and get a database of all the wells in the county and try to get everybody to test their water. It's a very important thing to do to bring safety into our water. Secondly, the next is a little more complex. We don't know how much participation we'll have with public utilities. I know the public utilities are probably hesitant about it when you say something about it because you're questioning their water integrity. Well, it ain't so much their water, it's the water happens to the water when it gets into the houses. One of the biggest things that have been issues is lead in the older, especially in older homes. And this lead, when it sets overnight, it reacts to the water. And then when people drink it, it's fairly bad especially for youth. I mean, if you look at the lead contamination, what it does to children, it's pretty bad. I'm not saying all cases. But we want to make a testing available for every water utility, not every water utility, but every water customer in the state in our county. And then we can work on that because, like I said, lead is a big thing. But altogether, we're going to have probably $120,000. We're probably not going to spend the 50. I doubt if we spend the 25. But if we did all the program, tested everybody, that would be budgeting everybody with what the Board of Health putting in and with Soil Conservation putting in. That would be enough to test everybody in the county. We will not do that. But so it's going to be more like a gradual thing, it's going to how it reacts. But we're trying to set the bar for other counties to have a very good, solid water testing. Like I said, this is a partnership between 3 different entities. And I think I sent you the flyers and all the brochures and all that. I hope you had time to read them. But the state is picking up on this, and they're looking at us as doing the model setting for water usage and not water usage, but your water monitoring. I've been in the water business for over 25 years. I managed almost every water utility around here for several years at a certain time. So I understand what public water is. It's not so much the water coming into the house, it's what happens after the water gets into the house.
Well,
And so
don't you think that the citizens of Vermillion County know that having lead in the water is a bad thing?
Say it one time?
Well, don't you think the people already know that having lead in their water is a bad thing? They don't know that?
That's why we're trying to make people aware of this stuff.
What are you gonna do? Go knocking on everybody's door and telling them, or
No.
how are you
we
gonna
got-
make them more aware?
We got media working on it, and the Board of Health is doing all the promotion on it.
I mean, why can't we just run an ad in the newspaper and say, hey?
Well, we're gonna do that.
Let's
Paula
see.
Marcus has got that laid out, she's doing the promoting of it.
We don't need $50,000 for that, though, Tim.
I'm just saying, to do the whole county, we got to set something, we're gonna do the whole county. I'm not saying we'll spend it as we need it, not spend it all at one time.
So is it possible to fund like a portion of it?
Yeah,
And then see
25
how
would work.
well the reception of it is, and then come
Yeah.
back and fund
Yeah.
more? It's not necessarily an immediate need for all
Right.
of it.
Can it be an annual, is there an annual estimated cost of the project? If it's over time, it'll take time to do.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, if we did it all at once, I mean, if we had 100% turnout and all this, it'd be in that range, but I think we'd probably get by with 25 and see how it goes. And we'd give you the reports of what's going on. It's, like I said, you got 3 different entities here together. It's not just the commissioners, it's not me, it's the Soil Conservation Service who monitors water, and you got the Board of Health involved. And there's a big push right now for lead contamination and exposure and informing people. And I hate to say it, but probably the most viable is the older houses that people have not a lot of income.
Is this the same program that the EPA has announced? And they have a program called Get the
This is
Lead
what
Out.
we've done on our own. We haven't talked to nobody. This
But
is
the
what we
name's the
developed.
same. That's why I was asking, was that there's a federal program under the EPA where I believe last year, perhaps at the end of the year, they awarded the state of Indiana $6.5 million or some number such as that for the same name of the program. And I didn't know if this was part of that or if
I
that's a
think that
competing
directly deals with
program
utilities. I think it does. I'm not for sure.
for public utilities.
Yeah.
That's more
Yeah,
geared toward
I think
that.
it's more for them to do certain amount of testing or something. I'm not familiar with that, truthful. But like I said, if there was some funding, and we're only going to use what we use. I mean, I don't care what we give us. I mean, we'll use what we can, but we got to know how much we can, so when we start promoting this, we don't have to come back. And like I said, I doubt if we spend 25 on it even.
Do you know how much the health department and soil water is contributing?
I'd have to look that up. I'm not prepared to talk about that tonight, but I think they was putting in like 30,000 or something like that, the health department. And I figured how much I don't know if it was on that paper or not. But soil conservation putting in a certain amount too. So whatever you can give, that's fine. If not, I understand that also. But I think it's very important if you make a difference in in the future of one child, you can't put a value on that. You can't do it.
Well, apparently we can't.
I know for a
$50,000.
fact, my managed water company is for 25 years. I know one had 850 customers. And 850 customers, they was required to do 20 samples. How many are you missing? So that's what I'm saying, there's so many vacancies, there's so many loopholes here, and we're just trying to see what we can do to make our county most effective in monitoring our water.
Will there be feedback, like, as you go, like,
Yeah.
we found this, and bring it back to the board,
Yeah.
to get it?
Well, I'm bringing 25, anyone that want to help, I can go back and tell her how much money we're going to be able to put together to make what we can do.
What's the benefit of that feedback?
Do what?
What would be the benefit of that feedback if somebody's got lead in their house?
Well, let me ask you this, if you had kids in your house, and you had water coming in your house, and your water, you got a problem in your house, and your kids are drinking water with lead in, what would you do?
If I thought there was a problem, I'd go have my water tested.
That's what
I don't need a
there's-
program.
There's a large amount of
program.
money that's promoting this from the health department, promoting public awareness.
It's just wasted money, though. It's just like spending money on COVID. I mean, if you, I don't
There
care
you
who
go.
gives it
You're
to you and how
going
much
off,
they
you're
give
going
you,
off.
you're throwing
Let's
it
get back-
away.
Let's get back to the original thing.
It is.
It's
the same thing, Tim.
No, it's public health. And it's a very big deal with the state of Indiana and federal government even, to get the lead out.
And how many counties are doing that in Indiana?
We're the best county. We're the ones setting the bar for all the counties.
We're the best county or we're
We
the
will
first
be the
county?
best county, the top of the county in the state, if we do this. There's no other county that has this type of monitoring or made this for the effort to make our water quality better and make it safer for everybody. I've been in water business, managed water companies for 25 years. I know what goes on. Very well.
Everybody knows that what's
No, they
wrong.
don't.
If you
No,
have
they don't.
a portion of the request and you test some number of homes over a certain period of time and you're not finding anything, is that any indication of, I mean, your goal is to test everything?
Make it
Because
available. If they don't say they don't want to, they don't have to. And we might not have a bunch of participations, we don't know.
So-
We just know we're gonna try to make an effort to make a difference in the community.
So if it is $25,000 is what, maybe that takes you most of the way or something like that, then it's up to the individuals to want to do this. And if
Yes.
at the end of the year, if no one does it, then not a penny was spent, then it was not successful in that. But
Well, you
if
won't be
it
spending the
did,
money.
if-
I'm not asking for money. I'm
Yeah.
asking for, if we get this stuff going, I would like just to make sure it gets funded. And it might
right,
be
but
small.
if people wanted to do it, it's up to the individual to want to do this.
Right.
And they can do that right now. There's a way you can get your water tested right now. I know somebody pays for it, but the homeowners don't pay for it. It's free once a year.
The
or
health
whatever.
department's
To get
committed.
your water tested.
30,000. Health department's already committed 30,000.
30, I
That's
said,
got
I thought
nothing to do with
said
what I'm talking about.
But no, every testing costs. You might say it's free, it's
I
not.
know
It
that.
costs. And Eric Scheidler has a certain amount of money in his budget he spends every year for testing. You might say it's free, but he's paying for it. Someone's paying for it.
You'd be
But
better
he
off-
doesn't have a large budget for that because not many people ask for that. But if you
Well, I
promote
think-
it, you could have a lot of people ask for it.
But that's the whole
do it
thing
through
is,
him.
the health department is promoting, they're doing the awareness, they're doing the promoting of the program. And that's mainly their budget, they're doing the promoting and pushing it. But, like I said, I don't know how big it'll go. We're just being proactive to try to make something happen in the community that makes things better. Nobody hardly knows what's in their way. If everybody would want to do it, then it makes sense, right? I mean, everybody seems like they should want to know
Well,
that.
you can't force them anyway. I
We
mean,
can't force them.
you can make them aware, and that's all you can do. And we can
That's
do
right.
that without spending the.
Make them aware and let them know there's
Millions of
testing
dollars.
available.
So if the county thought this program was successful, what would be the percentage of the number of customers in the county doing this project that we would consider this successful? Got an idea? Is that?
I don't know. I think he tests about 70 wells a year.
I can say, I know at the
Eric does.
At the
That's my
fairgrounds,
guess. Yeah.
I'm thinking I heard last year there was 100
Maybe there's
samples taken. I don't know, I can't remember. But it was, it wasn't a significant number that I would say, but it was a good number. You know, that 100 people sent in samples.
Yeah. But I don't know how many actually wells we have. That's something else we're going to try and do, the research on how many wells are in the town. We've done know all the public utilities and how many they have. And the public utility probably don't want to do this, to be truthful, because they wonder why their quality of water is.
Well, where I live in Fairview Park, they issue, I think, a quarterly report on, they test their wells, and they issue each, I guess, utility user a report on what's in there. So, they at least do. I don't know about everywhere. But
You're required by law to do a CCR every year, which shows all your monitoring, all your contaminants and everything down to that. But we're dealing with houses. We're not dealing
Right.
with the water coming in is okay. It's what happens after water comes into the house and sets in the older lines, especially. It's got.
So these may not be necessarily wells.
No,
This
it's
could be
wells, lead pipes, and old houses.
the wells for the utilities are being tested.
No. Private wells.
I guess my question is, the
Houses.
water is within the house, you said. So is that coming not directly from the well, but it's coming from the utility?
Yeah, but they have all the monitoring on the wells.
I know. So, but you can still get lead from
Yeah.
the pipes,
Right.
not from the water,
Right.
from the pipes. That's what we're
Right.
talking about.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be coming from a rural well like I have. Could be city water that's being
Yes.
provided to you that you have lead pipes in your home.
Yes.
Right.
And the reaction to that water. And that's the whole thing we're trying to do, is we're not saying anything bad about public utilities at all. But if there's a potential we can find, you know, I just,
Is there a question?
we're trying to be proactive.
I think we have a question now.
Well, Mr. Costello just brought up about that clean drinking water, and I live in Clinton City and I'm on Clinton City Water. And probably 2 months ago, got a postcard from the state of Indiana, filling out, they want to know if I know what the pipe is from the meter to my house, and then what the piping is from inside my house. And they're gonna come and test it at some point in time, they say, because the one house I live in was built in 1890 or 1880 or so. And then the other house was built in the late 60s. So there is a state program, you heard right. And we do get a quarterly report from the city of Clinton because they do test the wells. But then he's right, once it hits the house, if anybody should
You don't know for sure.
Yeah.
If it was
Could be
built-
unknown, could be not.
So is this program contingent upon us adding money into it, or can we wait and see how the reception is with the current funds and then
I just didn't know.
evaluate it at that time?
Because we're trying to set up quarterly places in the county, because they're going to do, also with that, they're going to immunizations and things like that, the health department's going to do at different areas in the county. Those also will be the sampling points, the collection points at those times. And so, you know, I don't know, it might be 5 people turn out, it might be 50, it might be 100, I don't know.
Well, that's what I'm kind of asking is like, if they start this program and like the first day they have like 1,000 people show up, can you come back and say, okay, we are going to need more money? Or if they only have 5 people show up, they may not need more money in the program. I mean, is it something that we have to do today, or is it something that we can kind of let that process start and see how the reception
What I'd
is?
like to do tonight is go back and talk with Paula Market and also with Eric Scheidler. You know, what do you guys recommend, and then see what we can come up with. I was supposed to get this done at the meeting before, a month ago, because it was going to start that, and I got tied up in the ambulance situation and didn't get it done that night. So, we can do whatever you guys want to do. I just trying to be proactive, and you make a difference in the life and the future of a kid. You can't place no value on that, the way I feel about it.
So does Eric or Paula, who has the plan? I mean, what is the timeline plan? Is this going to go on for 1 year, 5 years?
Well,
I mean, do you have a formal plan, I guess?
I don't know
Working on
how
it.
much information I sent you. I sent you a lot of information. I think
Yeah,
I'll get you a
I
lot
mean,
of-
there's a lot of papers, but I didn't see a formal plan. Or I don't recall one now.
Okay. Well, I'm just, like I said, I'm not totally prepared for this tonight, but I will say this, whatever you all say, and I can go back and talk to them, but, like I said, that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to provide more testing for people that could make a difference in their health and safety of kids. So you tell me what you want me to do. You want me to go get more information? You want me to, I don't want you guys to feel uncomfortable with what you're doing, you know, but I do know, as far as monitoring utilities, I'm a licensed water operator at Henley Water Plant in the state of Indiana, and I know that the ratio of testing is very, very small versus the entire customers. I mean, I had 850 customers, and we do 20 of them with lead and copper. So the percentage of catching the stuff is very, very small. And so we're just trying to take it to another level where we can detect some of this stuff and try to make a difference in our water quality. And back to the wells, I mean, you can't, I know a friend of mine, his son died from a well. If they had testing done on it and been more educated on it, maybe it wouldn't happen, I don't know. It'd be nice if all the wells could be tested. And,
So the options this evening, if there is interest in putting additional funds in this program, it can be up to the $50,000 mark, or it can be any amount under that. It can also come from any of the 3 options that we've advertised: public safety, certified shares, improvement fund, or a mixture of any of the 3, since they've all been advertised.
to what, I mean, does it make any difference if we say we could just up to 50, we'll just use what we need to use? I don't want to come here and say I want 50, we're only going to spend 10. I don't know where it's going to go.
So what money's available now? Is there money available now to start this process? Is that right, or is there zero?
What do you mean?
I mean, the $50,000, what, is there any funds available to implement this program now? Or
Not that I know of.
nothing?
From the health department or soil and water?
Well, that's what
I
I'm
thought I
saying.
sent
I
a
know.
percentage, there was, like I said, I could get another write out and send it to you, you know, I didn't have.
Yeah,
it.
I'm just curious to see, because if you implement the program and it starts and you're like, this is really taking off, then you can additionally add as much as you need to make it 100% successful versus appropriating it and then saying, well,
Yeah.
we didn't really use it, so, and then it
I
dies
can-
at the end
I
of the
can
year.
make next meeting, I guess, you tell me what answers you want, questions you have, and I'll get them for you.
But there's other people pledging money too, right?
You got the Soil Conservation Service, Eric Scheidler's involved, and I don't know if he's 15 or 20 or 30,000, and you got the Health Department spending $30,000 or $40,000 on it, so.
Okay.
I think the total cost to do all of it was $125,000, if you did every one of them. So we're just looking at the total.
So there's
and
money
and we ain't
there.
gonna need that much, it ain't gonna happen.
I think if you come back and show us the plan and a timeline and,
Who's putting what in?
I mean, 10%.
Right.
is
That
fairly-
money.
I thought I sent that to you. I thought I showed Eric Scheidler and Paula Marketing and the stuff I sent to you.
So is this money all just to cover the cost of the testing, or is it flyers and advertising and everything?
The money that the health department doing, they're in charge of promoting it and taking collection of it. And like I said, they're gonna do different places in the county and do their health awareness clinics at the same time, and then have the collection of the bottles at the same time. So, like I said, I'm just trying to be proactive and trying to make a difference.
Eric will be the one testing the water or sending it in, or somebody else?
Nobody, the property owner does the testing. We don't.
We'll bring the water samples to,
Yeah, those are distribution points. But there's a lot of PR, and I understand what you said. Why don't people a lot of people are not aware of it. And so that's part of the health department's promotion, is to make people aware of it. And I will check that thing about the federal, right? We had started this spring and came out with the federal, so it's kind of, the state came in, I think they realized, hey, someone's actually been proactive on this. So, but y'all tell me what you want to do, and I have no problem. I'm just trying to make something happen and see where we want to go.
I'd make a motion, we table it until we talk about it some more.
Okay, what information do you need, so I know?
I need to know why we need to be spending taxpayers' money to do a test that we've already can get for free.
You're never getting that free.
Of course you do. You can take your water, they always offer that once a year somewhere, at the fairgrounds, whatever, where you take your water in and have it tested for free. I know somebody's paying for it, but why do they need to pay for it twice?
Well, Eric is the one involved in this, and he's the one who made this recommendation.
Well, then ask Eric that question then, because that's what I
But
need
if
to
you're trying to
know.
check every home, if that's the goal, he may not have the funds to
He
do
won't
every
do.
home.
He
Is that
won't.
right?
It's far above his budget of doing anything on this large scale capacity.
And since I think he said that part of the money would be used for advertisement, so of the people that do bring samples to the free testing sites, maybe, 1 out of 100 knows about what they need to do, and the other 99 needs some sort of education on the matter, I suppose.
You said the health department's gonna be
Education
responsible for making people aware of it.
Right, but with the funds from this, I assume.
No,
Other funds?
their funds. The health department, you just said, was gonna be responsible for making people aware, right?
Yeah, they're spending $30-some thousand.
So that's the only
Of
money.
current money,
Huh?
of money that they currently have.
They have.
It's not part of this program.
No,
Making them aware is the only thing we need
there's
to
gonna
be
be at least
doing.
around $50,000 invested with the health department and with the soil and water, at least. Of money they're gonna be putting in. But like I said, I'll go back and any questions you have, please let me know what they are, and I will address them. And I'm in no hurry I wish I had this done earlier, because I was trying to do it earlier in the year, but I didn't get it done.
So, Kelly, you mentioned a motion to table. Is there a second to table this request?
make a second.
I have a motion to table the additional appropriation of $50,000. I have a motion from Mr. Somerville and a second from Mr. Brown. All those in favor to table this issue? Sorry. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. All right. has been tabled.
You know what my question is? Anybody else have anything they want to ask?
Well, you said timeline.
Yeah, if you can get a timeline in the budget and a strategic plan, I guess is what I'm looking for.
What, maybe
I thought I
Eric
sent
can-
you a lot of information.
You,
Maybe I
you
didn't.
sent quite a bit of
We talked to Eric,
information.
too.
I thought I had, but I didn't. I took it out of my bag, so.
Okay, I will get the amount that's contributed by each organization and what they're doing with their money.
I think the timeline and the strategic plan is really what
And
what we're after.
also, Eric from Soil and Water sent us an email reminder about the well water testing at the fair. The
Right.
county fair does start this
Yeah.
coming weekend. The Soil and Water will be setting up their trailer and tent next to the Rabbit Barn at the county fair this year. They will have well water test kits available on Monday and Tuesday, so that is June 17th and 18th, with collection day being next Wednesday, the 19th, at the fair to drop them off to him. I'm sure he's probably put it on Facebook as well, and they're also having special guests each night, or not necessarily each night, but certain nights of the fair for different topics. I know like one of them was garden and soil stuff. Somebody else was on forestry. So he does have a flyer out there if you'd like any more information on that for soil and water.
And the key to testing is a little complicated, because I've tested my water a couple times, and I know the first time I did it, we didn't do it appropriately, so the test basically failed. So there's a right way to do it. You got to let your water run, and
That is advertised, right? That they're
well
going to
water?
have the water testing? Because that's something we should be
I haven't
doing.
seen it.
We should be making people aware that if there's
So the
a...
health department's going to do the money.
Okay, so that's my point. I don't see why we need all this other money.
I'll work it out.
Okay, it better be good.
I tested my pool the other day. Chlorine was a little high.
All right. Our next additional appropriation is from the commissioners, is for $360,000 to capital outlays. It's to purchase a second ambulance and a striker device. We had it advertised twice. Advertised in the improvement fund, which is the ARPA money that we put into that fund, and then the certified shares. So there again, it can be approved up to the $360,000 amount in total. It can be from one fund or a combination of the two funds.
And since we started talking about that, we did find a cheaper ambulance.
Okay.
Okay, that one was a $280-something ambulance, now we have a $198,000 ambulance. Then when you add striker equipment and everything, it would come in at
275.
$272,884.
Who's that
Price out
for?
the door. $272,880.
I mean, who's the vendor?
It's EV Plus. It is a 450. It's the same vendor, same chassis, same year, so we're not buying different equipment.
Same price too, isn't it, basically?
Different box. This is a McCoy Miller box. The last one was a Lifeline box.
How much was the first one cost?
The first one,
Maybe $10,000 or $12,000.
the ambulance price for this ambulance, the first ambulance we bought, we ended up getting a little bit of a discount. We got that at $188,000.
Oh.
This one comes in at $198,000. When I asked what the difference was, he said there was more repairs and everything to bring the McCoy Miller box up to code or whatever the current certifications are. Also, the striker equipment now is $2,000 more than we bought last time. He said they just got this in. This is what Striker's charging now, so we're paying that price.
So chassis is the same, vendor's the same, size is the same, the floor plan's a little different, the box.
Slightly different. Julie went through it the other day. They have picked up the Lifeline, the original one we've already purchased, and she went through the specifications on this one and was had another girl from her office there, and they were talking about the differences between the boxes. They didn't think it was going to be any.
Okay.
You know, it's not like, you know, you're going to grab the needle and give somebody cyanide instead of aspirin.
That wouldn't be good.
Okay. So,
But so with the other things we're looking at, we had advertised $360,000, okay? And one reason we kind of jumped up high was because we were talking at different meetings about all the other things, and we're out of time.
It's
We've
always
got, like,
easier
2
to
weeks.
advertise higher.
Exactly.
And approve lower, so.
But so other things that we wanted to get in on that 360 are the medical supplies that he has at inventory, okay? And these aren't pills or any type of
Who has-
prescription stuff. This is bandages, splints, the things that you use that have a shelf life but have a long shelf life.
But who has an inventory?
Ileana, the ambulance service, okay? That inventory was then sent to Park County Ambulance because Ileana is a for-profit company. So if they go buy a Band-Aid for $1, a non-for-profit company like Park County EMS could buy that same Band-Aid for about 35 cents. So what she did was went through his list where everything was listed at the value it was purchased at, repurchased that at the amount that she would pay for those items, and then I offered him 75 cents on the dollar, and he agreed to it. That came to $21,661.92. And that is to set up these ambulances, and there'll be some leftover stuff, and there's stuff that's coming out of Park County supplies, because all the drugs and all that have to come from somewhere too. The other thing that we like to put in on this is the furnishings. Okay, you need beds for the house in Cayuga. You need a couch and chairs, stuff like that. The building in Clinton, all we would need is the kitchen furnishings. For all the furnishings for both those buildings, we made an offer of $12,364 and some change. Okay, that's storage units for the stuff that it's stored on right now. We would end up getting all of this, the supplies, the racks, the bins, all that stuff come with it. So in the end, what I'm looking at is you advertise 360, and when we add all those things together, it comes to $306,910.84.
Well, I don't know how you came up that high. You had 220 with the ambulance and the material, and you got the striker, what, 25? 245?
You got 33.
What's the 33?
And
He wants to know what the 33 is.
the 33 is 12,000 for building furnishings, 21 for medical supplies. That's 33, okay, and change.
Okay.
So has Park County expressed interest in buying the inventory and these cabinets and all that kind of stuff?
What Park County expressed was that they would buy the inventory. But all that is coming out of the money that then we give them every month, and it's just gonna jack up the money we have for the year.
But if they replace the materials that we're buying at 75 cents on the dollar for 25 cents on the dollar, they buy it new, wouldn't they want to just buy their own?
If they could have it here tomorrow,
If
yeah.
if they want to do it, we've told her if she wants to do it, and she has no problem with this, it don't matter to me what,
Yeah, I don't know.
When you order stuff from these vendors, it doesn't come in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Sometimes the stuff's backward.
I thought when we talked earlier, and maybe I'm wrong, but that they were going to supply all of the supplies. Like-
They will.
Can they equip
Future.
2 ambulances? Like, if you don't buy that, can they equip the 2 new trucks tomorrow?
What she had told me was they would be very, very low in their supplies. She
After equipping them?
Yes.
This is the initial, it won't be no nothing after that. They're taking care of it from then on.
So what we're getting is, let's say they, for profit, he's charging $100. He's selling it to us at 75, but you offered him.
We could buy it for
less than that.
No, I offered him 75. Oh, if he's getting it at $100.
Yeah.
And Park County can get it at $50, we've offered him 75% of 50.
That's
Are
what
we
I was trying to
buying
say.
enough? I don't mean, I'm sorry, Rick, go
No,
ahead.
so 75% of 50,000. So we're getting it.
Right,
We
it's
buying it-
75% of the cost that Park County
Right.
would pay.
I follow.
Well, that's a good deal then on that part.
Yes, that's a great deal.
Are
But
we
it's a
buying-
one-time deal. You're not gonna be involved in it.
We
that part-
couldn't buy
Is it
it for
enough to
that.
equip
But
the 2
furniture,
trucks?
though.
What's that?
Is all the materials
I don't know about that.
enough to equip the 2 new trucks immediately? And is there excess beyond that?
There might be some excess. Okay, first off, this stuff was inventoried 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's not still on the shelf. Some of it's sold. So in the offers that were made to him, the bottom line was based on inventory on hand, and that, it hasn't hasn't, its shelf life hasn't expired, that it's still a usable item. So when this happens, it's, you know,
We're not talking about drugs or
the
something.
$21,661 could end up actually being $17,000 because he's already used those other items. It's gonna be based on what he has on hand. Now, he's buying stuff, he says, that he's replenishing stuff, but his employees say he's not replenishing everything they're using.
So we got the 198, we got the 33. How much is the striker?
73,987. If you don't believe me,
No,
get a calculator and do the math. I'm tired of explaining stuff
I'm
over and
asking the
over
question,
again.
how am I supposed to know?
It's okay.
So, with the IRS lien in this situation, if we make payments to Eric, does that actually go to Eric, or is that going to the IRS?
I don't have a clue on that.
Look at that, we'll find that out.
I will say I have discussed that with him, and no matter which way it happens, he says he doesn't care. If he owes $200,000 and we give him $200,000, and
Okay.
either he
I
gives
just
it to the
wondered.
IRS or
I
we
didn't know
give
if
it
that
directly to the
created a
IRS.
problem for us in any way.
The only way it'd be a problem is if their lien extends to the things that we would be buying, like
Their lien is any payment we make, it's a garnishment lien.
When-
So
when-
therefore, any payments we make will have to go to Ireland.
When Park County received the inventory list, I guess, did they give you a value of what they thought those supplies were worth?
Yes, they valued it, she went through it and valued it at what she would pay for those items.
And that was the 75 cents?
And then we offered him 75 cents on that.
75%.
Okay, but what would she,
If she said she would pay, if she said she'd pay $1 for this item,
Mhm.
She got a
and
percentage.
he would have bought it for $2.
but I'm saying, is that what she valued it at? Is that what her cost of that item is, or is that what she would pay Eric?
No, that's her cost.
Her
That's
cost
what-
of buying it new.
Her cost of buying it.
They're
new.
buying
But
from
I'm
the same
asking is
vendor.
what she feels these supplies are worth.
She,
She-
oh,
she's-
her
Not
thing was
brand
like
new.
30-some $1,000.
Not brand new. She's saying that he has $30,000 worth of inventory that she would be willing to purchase, not her cost at new cost.
I don't think you're quite catching this.
She's saying if I have 10 boxes of Band-Aids, that's worth $30 worth of Band-Aids if I have to go buy that.
Right.
But what is she willing to pay for those Band-Aids?
She was willing to pay $30. 'cause
She's
she
gonna
said
pay
that would
brand
be
new
her
price for his
cost.
supplies.
Yeah,
They want to see
because it is a brand new item. It's not like they've
What do you
opened these
want?
things and used them and put them back in a box.
But do they have expiration dates on any of this?
Some of them probably do.
But long
Yeah,
expiration
they're like
dates.
5-10 years. They're not, you know, they don't have to be kept at a certain temperature and kept for a short period of time.
Shelf life is extended. It's probably a good
I mean,
deal.
what do you guys think? We need to move on.
You guys remember what we paid for them 10 strikers we bought? I thought they were like 23,000 apiece.
What's that?
And like 5 something for the service, but that's a completely different animal than this stuff.
Oh, it's not one of those.
No, this
It's not
isn't the-
just compression.
These, this is a thing
brand
that you
name.
wheel, you got a person on a cart.
It's a cot.
Okay? First off, you're paying for that cart. That's all motorized, it's got all kinds of stuff on it, it's just like a bed in a hospital now. You wheel that up to the back of an ambulance, the ambulance actually picks that up and moves it in there. So you don't have a little short person, a big tall person waddling this person all around, it gets loaded in.
Safer.
It straps it down in place. That's what we're paying for.
Yeah.
And the spare batteries for that stuff, the chargers and all those things that come with it too.
Well, didn't they call them things strikers?
Striker's a brand.
It's a
Brand,
company.
That's a
brand
brand.
name.
It's a brand. They make
Okay.
different things.
Okay.
It's a Stryker cot. They probably make defibrillators. They probably make all kinds of
There's
things.
another item that goes in every ambulance, it's like $50,000, that's the monitor. Park County's supplying those because they have spares, we're not buying any of that stuff. And that's because they want all of the ambulances to have the same monitors in them. You know, we could go buy something different.
Well, I'm all for buying 2 ambulances. I mean, definitely. I think we definitely should be buying 2 ambulances and have it
That's
done.
it, right
Well,
there.
and
That's
that's,
the second one.
it needs to, by about the 1st of August, we need to have it in the county so she can start getting it set up so that when the county stuff in Park County, Vermillion County all starts, we have enough ambulances to cover everything. So that's why we're jumping on this now. Like I said, we found one that was like $100,000 more a while back, and that's when we started talking about this. And then this one's come along. He's
There
hanging
is-
on to this for us right now. I told him after the commissioners meeting, I was pretty sure we were gonna go for it, so he's just sitting on it. But
Good.
So we're supposed to have this all in place by Labor Day.
So just make this clear to everybody. Let's say we had a $100 package. Julie can buy the same package for
$50.
$25 if we're talking that, and then you offered him 75% of the 25.
Right.
We can get it now.
So,
And we can get it now. There's no delays in the ordering.
so we're getting it for
That makes sense.
$25 less
And if it's,
than what she can buy it for.
If it's something that's supposed to be some
75%
sterile object that
of the
obviously has
I could be
been
wrong.
Yeah.
used or whatever,
Yeah.
she's
So
not
we're-
gonna take that.
So
This
we're
is-
getting it for less than 25%.
Right.
Well, the other factor is they can't get it in time, that's the other side of the coin.
Yeah, this
No
available
matter how
supplies
cheaply
now.
they can get it, if they can't get it in time, then we've got a problem equipping the truck, so. And again, this is probably enough supplies to do it once, after that it's over
We pay her,
with.
You don't have
pay
to-
her
This
more.
isn't going, this inventory's not going very far. And this, you know, it seems like a lot of money, and it is, but again, this is an expensive business adventure to get into this. It's extremely expensive to provide ambulance care. So, it's
And the
just
second
supplies, I
ambulance
guess.
is ready to go, or they're building it?
No, it's ready. It's ready to go.
It's
Yeah.
repaired.
It's, I believe it's still in Michigan, but it'll be the same deal as last time. He'll drive it here and I'll take him back to, up by Fisher's. and that's
The
how
first
we
one is
deliver.
already at Park County getting the decals put on it.
So we got lucky that,
Yeah.
it popped up.
I would
So
say
this
having
this is a good company.
a similar truck
Yeah.
under similar
Same-
rebuild conditions with the
same
same
year.
vendor is extremely fortunate to have that happen in today's market.
Yeah, one of the things they do is they set up with local wrecker companies in the county, so in case it gets a flat tire going down the road, they can call a wrecker company. So another thing is that wrecker company's gotta have a wheel-in tire ready to throw on there, which they haul because you can't be, there's no place for a spare in an ambulance. And,
There used to be.
so,
We used to
I
have
think
them.
they used to flip up the back thing and there was something under there, they don't do that anymore. So now, you know, by having the same tires in Park County's ambulances, I believe, they might have one that's different or maybe two, but they have the exact same wheels, and tires. And she budgets every year to buy, you know, say 4 tires per ambulance and that she takes care of, so. Then she just gives those off to these companies and whenever there's something happens, dispatch calls them and they're there. So having the same thing is a good deal.
Now, in the future, Park County will probably develop specifications for the ambulances to purchase new ones and, you know, in advance. I mean, you're gonna know that several years down the road, you're gonna have to buy some, so you start that process early. So don't be surprised if in 5 years, this process fires back up and we're looking at this again. It's gonna happen. I mean, it's just like any piece of equipment. It has a finite life.
We're probably looking at 10 years life expectancy per ambulance.
Yeah, I mean,
She was saying that
they
probably at
do
8
fun.
years, they would look at buying another one. In 6 years, we're looking at taking one of the best ones they have over there, which is probably a fairly new one right now, and that becoming a spare for both counties.
Yeah. There'll be a constant, it'll be a constant purchase like any piece of equipment in some fashion, whether it's remanufactured, brand new, hand-me-downs. There's gonna be more. Each county will need backup units. You know, ultimately, I think, you know, they manage it, but we're providing the hardware.
Who insures it?
They do.
They do.
They do?
We got the same insurance provider.
So if
Yes.
they're driving the total with their insurance company?
Yes.
covers it?
Yes.
They also maintain,
They
they
maintain
do
it,
the
yeah.
maintenance 100% as far
They
as.
do a good job at that.
Yeah, their maintenance program is, you know, geared toward life safety equipment like ambulances. It's not, you can't just take it to your local tire shop and have them fix the engine. It has to be someone who's certified in.
Park County, every month, they have a technician go through every ambulance. And then every 3 months, the guy who owns the garage over there that actually services, that they have on the hook for their service company, does a complete service on every ambulance every 3 months. Checks the brakes, checks all this stuff. That's the biggest issue we got right now is they're not being maintained. They're at the end of their life, and they're breaking down on runs, which you just can't have. You know.
Which fund do you wanna use for this?
The improvement fund is basically the ARPA money.
Okay.
How much money's in that?
There's probably only $2 million in there. Or more.
Somewhere around there.
Right.
Not quite.
What?
Not now.
Well, we took out, yeah.
What'd you take out?
We're under 2.
Like, give me that
You got some
report, I'd like to see it.
money appropriated for other things. Yeah.
I sent to the council the proposals from Republic for financing, also for First National, obviously, there's some others. But there are going to be a number of other expenses over the next period of time here for facilities and these, whether we're renting the facilities or building facilities or building new facilities, but the council should be looking to additional expenses.
It's not even part of the conversation.
As we go forward. Also, at some point in time, the council will need to consider laying money back unless they decide to wait for 10 years and then finance whatever the equivalent of $150,000 is today into the future. Either laying money back each year or making that decision on how that's going to be financed in a 10-year period. Until the service settles in and has a track record, we may be better off financing these for a period of time as opposed to, unless we just have cash available, that we will have some hundreds, potentially $2 million of expenses here in the next 2 or 3 years for facilities and so forth if we continue down the road that we're going. Until that plan is settled in and everybody's comfortable with where we're going, you may want to finance instead of cash with those reserves for the later date. I don't know where the council sits as far as where the council sits as far as cash flow goes. That's a consideration that's available to you.
Those $1 million buildings are never gonna happen.
Then you don't have to set the money back. It's just
Well, we want buildings, we just don't want $1 million buildings, Brittany.
that's fine. That's not the point. Whether you're spending $1 in a building or $1 million.
We need to have a plan.
Yes, and that's the council's duty to decide how that is. I'm just saying we will be spending more money.
Sure.
Regardless of what it is,
Sure.
we will be spending more money. I don't know what our cash position is. That's the council's purview, so.
So ARPA funds can help considerably with this, but it's limited to some amount. I
Right.
don't know exactly what that is at that point. Beyond that, what is there?
Right.
And we already purchased one ambulance with cash, so that one can't be financed at this point. I mean, unless you sell it to them, or, I mean, is it possible to finance both ambulances, or?
I didn't ask him about one that we've already purchased. I assume
Yeah.
we can still probably do something like that.
I mean, I
don't know.
probably wouldn't muddy the water with it. We've already got the title, so. But this other one's a 5
Makes no
lease
sense.
payments to own.
It's a 5, there's different programs, 3, 5, and 7. Probably the one to be looking at is the 5-year one. There is, to pay it off, there is a, whatever the balance is, there's a 1% penalty with Republic. I don't think there's a penalty with First Financial. There are differences in their interest rates.
But it's ownership at the end, it's not lease turn, it's not a, it's a lease purchase.
Yes, at 5 years, at the end of the period, that's all you owe. The other thing is that we've got 2 ambulances now on it at basically the same time. So in 10 years, depending on how it's managed, the one up north may not get used as much, maybe it'll be a swap, but at 10 years, those boxes are going to still need attention. And so you'll have another big bump in 10 years. Again, how council decides to set the money back, a tenth every year or every other year or whatever, that's really what you guys do. But you need to consider that there's going to be some big dollar spent here initially still, and in 10 years, how that's going to be financed at that point in time, assuming we start.
So is there a motion on this?
I think we're ready.
So you want to take it out of the improvement fund?
Yes.
But the total is different now. You said it's not the 360, it's 272.
No, it comes to $306,910.84.
Oh, okay.
This truck plus all the other equipment,
okay.
surplus.
That's all of the other
items.
stuff right
Yeah,
now.
I got it.
So 300.
As far as the lease goes, do we want to entertain the idea that, I mean, how does that complicate the matter tonight? Right now, this truck's probably not going to be sitting around long for us to do something with that. I don't know, it's already set up to to sign the paperwork on a lease? Is that how it works? or-
You're gonna
No,
lease,
because those numbers are over a month old now.
Okay.
There's,
No, it's not set up.
there's statutory requirements.
Call the bank and say-
If you were interested in doing that, which I don't know if you are, I would strongly recommend going through the Indiana Bond Bank to do that. They solicit state bids for, they're a state, it qualifies for the kind of lease bids you have to get, and they go through like a dozen different banks or 15 different banks in the state. I was just looking it up because the city of Clinton just bought a back truck earlier this year that cost about $500,000, 5 years. We got a 4.9% interest rate on it.
Does that work for buildings?
Equipment.
Just equipment?
So, but, you know, that's up to you guys whether you want to try and find it. But, I mean, if you got the cash, the county's cash position is very strong, I would say. So, the interest payments are gonna be something like 70 grand.
Well,
Maybe we could look at the next round of
don't forget
ambulances
this.
trying to.
If I remember correctly, someone stated in October, we might need a third one?
In October, we need 2 in this county because the 4 they have, they need in their county.
So we need 2 here by October, not 3.
We need 2 here by September for Labor Day.
Right,
And we won't have a backup during the festival,
right.
because they're gonna take the backup truck that they were gonna
Right,
keep here.
right.
It's
That's
going to
what
the
it
Bridge
was.
Festival.
Okay.
So that would give us just 2 trucks, basically.
Yeah, then once the Bridge Festival's over, they send a spare back here to back us up.
Yeah, okay.
Whatever, park it wherever.
Now,
That's-
this whole situation ends up helping, between the 2 counties, saving an ambulance, basically, because you don't have to have us a spare, them a spare.
Right.
We can have a spare and
There
cover.
is a
some
spare.
of
I'm
the
curious,
costs.
is the one Oleana has now, would that be considered as just an emergency backup?
We
Just-
don't have use of it. I mean, it's
I mean,
not
when
on-
he's done, would it
Well,
be something to purchase?
We'd have to
and-
buy them, and he offered one to us for $35,000, $35,000, like $900. Nothing in it, just the box and the ambulance. And we had a vendor come in, and he said he wouldn't give us anything for the chassis, and I don't remember what it was. He said like 13 or something for the box.
So it's not a good deal.
So it would be like just
Not
to
a
have
good
it.
deal.
Well, you
for
could go
the-
find a used ambulance all day long on the
Yeah.
used market. I mean,
But the thing is, it's not a trustworthy ambulance. Especially if you're not driving it every day. If you got in it, it might not start.
now, by the same token, Park County has made mention that their backup trucks could never service Frontline. They'd be breaking down all the time because they're warned. But they can work for a few days or a week, and then you might have to do something to it to get it back. It's, they're just not. So
Yeah.
we'd be buying something that's could make a trip, but it could break too
They're-
real easily. So.
They're currently buying a new one right now that they're expecting delivery of sometime in 2025.
Wow.
Yeah, so we would probably eventually look at keeping the 2 we're buying now as backups here in some fashion. We would develop our own backup ambulances in the future instead of trading them in or selling them. And then buy new ones.
Well-
Maybe when it comes time to buy the new ones in the next round, we can look at the financing option if the council wishes. I think it's a good idea. I know at work we use the financing to purchase all the dump trucks at once, graders, road graders are super expensive, things like that. And we've actually replaced our entire fleet in a short period of time using that. Yeah, we budget for it, it's real easy, and we're trying to stay in that program. But we handle it all through First. They don't shop around that. It's not my decision. Like you mentioned, Sky, I don't get to make those decisions, but I just do know that's what we do, and it works.
Okay, Mark, I wrote down numbers, but I didn't write quick enough. I had 198 for the ambulance.
198, 897.
Total for the whole ambulance was 272,884 with that striker equipment and out the door.
Yes.
And then after that, between the $34,027 in between there.
After that, you got $21,661.92. That's the medical supplies. And then you got $12,364.92. That's the equipment, the furnishings. Beyond that, I don't have a cost on this from EAS to put the phone and internet into the house. Okay, they should need it in Clinton. So that's, and the other cost I don't know of is the cost for installation of the radio equipment. I'm supplying all the radio equipment, but somebody's got to put it in and program it. So. Now on the, not to get you mixed up on numbers here, okay? But on the 275 that you guys approved for the last ambulance, okay? We are at 271,445.20 is what's been spent out of that. And that includes an annual service fee for the striker equipment. The annual service is $6,195.20 for 2 ambulances. So two carts, 2 lift systems. Okay.
So we're gonna pay for the annual service fee or not Park County?
Up front, we're gonna pay for it. If we work it in later, I don't know, but that's ours to pay. That was part of the contract. I mean, when you think about this, everything we put on Park County is just coming out of the money we give them, and then if they run short, they're gonna come back and tell us they want more money.
Yeah, I understand.
So by getting a handle on these costs, and then when they come out in, say, November, and they say, this is what it's cost to run your service this far, and hopefully that's gonna be our 40 whatever payment is gonna drop down to maybe 41 or 39 or
That's
whatever.
that's a long, the discussion about how that's all gonna work out could be very lengthy, but I think that
This whole
ultimately, we're gonna be paying for exactly what we get.
Right, that's.
Yeah, and
that's
we're gonna
what
know it.
cheaper.
We're gonna know
Yeah,
we're
I
paying.
mean, we're paying for what we get
Cheaper.
in this situation to the penny, every penny. Park County's not going to use any money that we have toward their service. It's not legal, in my understanding.
They're
of that.
actually starting a finance line that's just for Million County.
Yeah, so there's probably no cheaper way for us to provide this service at this point. Now, the upfront costs seem steep, and they are, because we don't have any of this stuff. We've never done this. We're getting into it. So, you gotta buy the equipment to play. So that's what we're doing now, but.
Where do you want to take it out of?
So Mark, what we show that the cost of the supplies is like $29,000, and then we offered, is that right?
Yeah, we offered him 21,661.92, which was 75%.
Well, what I think I have here is existing medical supplies. The value of those are at 28, and then you offered
75%.
75%. Okay, and that was
21.
21,661.92. And again, I'd be really surprised if he has all of those supplies still on a shelf the day we take over.
So that number could be quite a bit less.
Yeah.
Will be lower.
I would almost
Unless they
guarantee
don't have
it.
any calls.
What amount did Park County say they would offer?
That theirs was like the 28 or 29 was what she said. I don't know if I've got that actual spreadsheet in my thing here.
Julie just said 50 cents max. In the message I just got.
What's that now?
Park County said they would offer 50 cents of a max on the supplies, which would be about $14,441.84 from my calculation.
28,856.57 was what she said was the current value.
How much?
That's what she could get it for.
28,856.57 is what she would pay for these materials.
That's what she could get it for.
At her non-for-profit discount, and we offered 75% of that.
So there's $56,000 worth of material that we're.
The current spreadsheet that I have says current value on existing medical supplies is $28,883.70. And then underneath it, it says cents, not dollars, offers. The 25-cent would be the $7,221, and then the 50-cent would be the $14,442 essentially.
Right.
So you're wanting to offer him 75 cents?
Already did. That's where me and him have sat down at the table, went through all this stuff item by item.
But if Park County doesn't feel like they're worth that, then why are we paying
Julie,
Eric more?
that's just what she put down, is she didn't carry it out. She seems fine with this offer.
I don't think so.
Did she tell you that? Because she didn't tell me
This
that.
text message came from her
She just sent you a text message saying that?
in a roundabout way. She said 50 cents max.
50 cents
And
on the
she's
dollar.
never said that. She said she was happy with 75%. If that's the case, just take that out of there. She can, Park County can make the offer themselves.
Okay.
It might be
That makes
better.
sense.
That would probably be the easiest way anyways. That way they
Yeah.
can hash
She was
out
the one who
guy.
didn't want to do that.
So they would just bill us for whatever deal they strike.
Yeah.
so.
So whatever,
And she
I
would
want to make
know-
sure that it's worth Park County's time and it's supplies that they actually want. I mean, it does no good for us to buy them and then her be like, I don't need them. So if she wants to do that and we can work it out in the end, if we need to pay them for that later, then that's fine.
None of this was me, except for sitting down at a table across from him. This is her list.
Yeah.
She
Which I have that
provided all
list.
this.
That's the whole $28,884 worth of it.
I guess maybe the confusion is whether or not is there any, I'm not saying you're confused, I'm not saying that at all, but I'm saying, at least maybe I am, as far as what's the starting point? Is the starting point the 100% new cost value of it, or is the starting point
I don't
what they
know.
estimated it at being worth today, used on
And
the
that's
market?
where I would
Because I don't
rather
know where they're starting from.
Julie talk to Eric, come up with a deal, and then basically whatever Julie agrees to, I think we're fine with.
I don't wanna
If she needs them,
upset
she
it.
needs them, and we'll fund
If
it
it's,
at
if
that
it's less
point.
than 75%, it's a great deal.
So-
Yeah.
I don't want.
She might be able to get it cheaper.
Yeah, I have nothing
Well,
against
she
that,
can get it
except for
cheaper,
the fact
she
that I feel like I got set up here.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, no.
I've been talking to her about this for a couple of weeks.
Well, I don't think that's the case, but
doing a great
I just want to
job.
make sure that everything is what they need. I don't want to burden them with extra stuff that they even have to get rid of or they don't want.
And that's
either.
why I'm saying, she's the one who provided the
Yep.
list.
And we can't
This is
approve
what she
less
wanted.
than what Eric agreed to. We can't do that either, you know, if he thinks.
Well,
if
she
they-
can renegotiate it.
That's
with
what
him.
I'm saying,
she
they have
might be
to.
I'd let them
Did-
negotiate it and we
yeah.
can fix it on the back end with the finances.
Did she come up with that number based on her cost or what
On
he
her
paid?
cost.
Oh, what he
Yeah.
paid for it?
On
On her
her cost.
cost.
Well,
cost.
then what Mark has done is a really good deal. I mean,
And,
we're getting
yeah,
it
but
for-
she thinks,
But
she
she's
thinks
telling,
get it cheaper.
she's saying now that
50%
that
says
75% is too
we're
much.
talking
50%.
75% of her cost.
Right, and she's saying 50% now, so whatever it is.
She's
it
wanting
is.
to get it for less.
She's still.
I would just
Oh,
rather.
well, then-
Just let her do it.
So be it.
If she,
But
if she
Mark
can do
got a
it,
good
let her
deal.
do it.
I totally
Mark's
trust
got a good deal.
Park County and what they.
But she's gonna get a better
She
one.
might get a
So-
better one.
Absolutely.
I totally trust their operations, let them figure
Yep.
out what
But I
they
think
need.
we're getting
and
mixed up
then-
on these numbers a
I
little
just
bit.
wish I had
No.
known that before I stood
Right.
up here and said that.
Well, I
Yeah.
just got it, so, for sake of dealings with that, we would at least need the $273,000 then for the ambulance and the striker equipment to get it out the door, correct?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Okay,
Let's do that.
What about the furnishings? The 12,000?
Well, she can also do that part.
yeah, I would let her, if she thinks she needs it, then
Let
we
her
can,
handle it.
and then if she wants to submit another request for it, to like repay them or to pay for it, I think we can do it that way. That way she can have the dealings with Eric and she can talk of what they need and what they don't need.
The problem is, this is all gonna happen, and you guys aren't gonna meet again until the middle of next month.
We'll have
We
another
can have a
one.
special meeting if we need to.
Okay, so in order to buy the ambulance, we need at least a $273,000 motion from either the improvement fund, which is the ARPA, or the certified chairs.
And the last one came out of the improvement fund.
Correct, that is basically the ARPA money, so that's where,
Basically the same thing.
So I'll make the motion that we appropriate 275,000
There you go.
okay.
out of the improvement fund for the capital outlays of the second ambulance and the striker device.
I'll second.
Just, go ahead, Jeff seconded.
Alright. I have a motion from Mr. Weir and a second from Mr. Bose to approve $275,000 from the improvement fund into the capital outlays for the purchase of the ambulance and striker equipment. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Okay.
And that-
Appropriations approved.
Will be here this week or next week.
Yeah, whenever we get the check, I'll just, like I said, I'll get ahold of him and we'll get it in the county and have it ready to go.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did a good job, Mark, and you saved us $7,500 over what we would have spent, sounds like to me, so.
Alright, the next additional appropriation is the first ambulance. The first one is the $275,000. It's advertised as public safety, so we can put that back into the public safety, because we used the original fund. The question is, can we do, Scott, can we do a transfer later from the improvement fund to the public safety to replenish that? Okay. Okay.
Or something, some sort of documentation so that
Okay, so we can't directly advertise this first ambulance coming from the improvement fund like we wanted to. We would need to basically approve this one, take public safety money, and put it back into that account to pay. This is like that monthly amount we owe Clark County for the service. And then later we can do the resolution to transfer money from the improvement fund into the public safety. So essentially the ambulance would be bought from the improvement fund, which is the ARPA money. So.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds great.
So it'll look like it's originally coming from public safety, but eventually, once we get the transfer complete, it will come from ARPA and / improvement fund. So we do need a motion on this one tonight.
I make a motion for $275,000 for our first ambulance out of public safety.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Somerville, a second from Mr. Brown, to approve the $275,000 for public safety for the ambulance service. All those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, state no. Appropriations approved. Okay. The next additional appropriation tonight was tabled from last month. It is in the amount of $18,000. Commissioners are asking to do a residential market potential analysis study through Thrive West Central. I believe we had some questions on that. Britain's here tonight.
Britton Luther, County Commissioner, and Ryan Keller, CEO of Thrive, we participate with. About a year plus ago, Thrive had done a study regionally, included 5 different counties, I believe, correct? 7 different counties. It was a high-level, comprehensive, high-level review of these counties for housing and the appropriation of those for marketing. Basically, a high-level marketing study as to what the requirements were for each county as far as housing and what the availability of housing and how much new housing need to come along for each county. From that, the counties were offered also, and that's what we're here tonight for, it's $18,000 to actually drill down into what Vermilion County would require as far as housing goes. The high-level study basically gave us about 30 housing units per year is what needs to be replenished to be able to keep the county up to par and to be able to maintain the population that we have today. The problem that we have is, one of the things is that we don't have the developers in the county that actually build 30 units. We have developers here that are building custom homes one at a time, but to actually get up to 30 a year, we do not have them. And so it is helping, or not helping our population center here to be able to maintain a population in the county. And our inventory is reducing, or I guess it's status quo. For whatever's coming on, we're also losing. So we're not doing very well as far as our housing markets go. With that, the next level, this what the $18,000 will buy, is basically bringing into this a marketing study that is ready for finance. So a developer that can step into, whether it's for one house or for a subdivision or for multiple units, they'll be able to take this paper and actually get financing from that. It will provide that information to be able to do that. And that's what I'd like for us to do. what I'm interested in particular and what's kind of pushed me over the top on this is that we're looking at Ernie Pyle. It's not progressing as quickly as I thought it might, as nothing has in the last 3 or 4 years. But what I'm interested in is the potential of that 20 acres there, taking Ernie Pyle School out of the equation. Well, it stays in the equation, but looking at the acreage, there's 20 acres around this property that already has a septic system there and a water system there, of which will need to be reviewed. But looking at senior and veteran housing being able to be placed on this property. If that is acquired through our redevelopment and we are moving toward the daycare, then this has that opportunity. We have a developer that's interested in coming in and doing this now, if and when we ever do acquire the property. Outside that, this opens up for the rest of the county. If the county can acquire property, or if individuals acquire property and want to develop the property, it opens it up where we potentially have other developers outside the county that would come in. Or if a developer decides finally to raise the level of service in the county from single custom housing to multiple housing subdivisions, etc., they'd be able to use the same package and use it as a private sense as well. I'll let Ryan explain this maybe in better detail, and if you have questions, hopefully we can answer those.
Hello everybody, I'm Ryan Keller.
Hello.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, I really appreciate it. So much like Commissioner Luther was stating, the local market potential analysis really does dive in. It kind of does a deeper dive with what your county and specific areas within your county have potential for housing. So it takes in consideration 5 different areas. Usually the county overall is one of those, so you get 4 locations you can pick. Ideally, you'd probably pick the city of Clinton, and then you'd pick some other kind of communities in there that may have potential. Generally, we would say to pick areas that are nearby to utilities, because that's usually one of the driving factors on if you're going to be able to do density in there for your development. This document does help de-risk those kind of developments for builders and investors. It really is the starting point if you're looking to put together a comprehensive housing strategy for your community. This is kind of the ground zero, the starting point. The regional market potential analysis really does just focus on high-level data that's useful for us, but if you were going to really try to get housing going within this county, the local market potential analysis is the starting point there, because it does start to really help your builders and your developers back into the products that they're looking to do based on what incomes look like, the type of housing and the propensity types, the density, and it takes all of that information and it allows them to see a much more clear picture of the product that they should develop here and how they can be successful with it. The goal of this really is coming out within the next 0 to 5 years is a catalyst project. So Commissioner Luther was mentioning something maybe out there by the Ernie Pyle Elementary School. That could be a catalyst site that you would be looking to do. And once you have identified a catalyst site, if you were to hire us additionally to do that type of work for you, we could start to work with attracting developers, putting together different methods of capital stacking, so how you would fund that project and how you could actually get it from maybe putting little to no money in it. That's the way it's been done before, maybe the last 4 years where we had our local governments flooded with money, but as that money's kind of starting to dwindle down, we're going to be back to the old way, and that's where we would identify different funding streams. That would probably, if you're looking at that site and you're doing senior and veteran housing, that would probably go into an IHCDA project with the state, and that'd be a tax credit project where there would be a little bit of investment from a local community, but most of it, large part, would come through the state and private funding that way. But there's lots of ways that you can do this, but I'm a true believer in this. We use the HOME method, which is home optimization through market empowerment. You basically are resetting the market to get builders and developers interested in building on speculation and not just doing custom home builds. And that's really what we've seen across the whole state and really the whole country for years. Is it's been too risky. Builders, they don't want to build a house and have a product sit there because their money's tied up. This method starts to get you into that realm where they can feel confident to build on speculation again. We have had a ton of success with it so far. We've started officially, we've been working on this for a few years, but we launched the first program with Ready $1 last year, and Vigo County and the City of Terre Haute both threw in $5 million. In addition to that, the Ready Award was for $1.74 million, and we've been able to generate, here I got some data if you want to pass it around, but this is a little bit old now. I think we have another round that we're going to be releasing, but as of the last round, we were up to 391 new housing units through our programming just within the region here so far, and that's primarily just been a small handful of counties. That doesn't count all the other development that takes place outside. We're starting to quantify that so we can really measure it, but very little of this has taken place in Vermilion County, and it is generally hard for housing development to take place and to shift from that custom home development to the speculation market until you have the data to really help the developers make those kind of good decisions. So this $18,000 would go to create that document, that data analysis, and that would be the first step in starting to attract developers or builders even that live within the community to say, hey, we'd like you to build on speculation.
So where do you get the data from? From the other counties or from our county?
So this study so when we did a regional analysis, that pulled all the county's data, but just at a high level. When you start to do the local analysis, that really dives in deep, and it comes from residents that actually live here, that live in a geographic circle kind of around it, and then uses some user data from other parts of the country, folks who may be willing to move here based on target market demographics. This uses we use financial analysts. We contract with them to actually do this type of work, and they pull off of a system called Claritas, and that is back-end data that they get released through the IRS. So it's user data that all of us are reporting when we do our tax returns, and it starts to use that kind of market analysis data. So I always like to think that it's a really conservative approach to what you can build within an area, because nobody lies on their taxes and say they make more money than what they really do. It's always the opposite. There's a lot of taxable income that's probably not being reported. So at the end of the day, it's a pretty conservative analysis of what's going on. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. Sorry.
I mean, basically,
can I explain it a different way?
I would say basically the data is not going to come from the people within the county other than from their tax returns.
Yep.
It won't be a survey that gets sent out to everybody again.
Yeah, it's not going to be a survey.
This is not a survey. We don't poll anybody. We go straight to the numbers. So these are the financial numbers that a bank or a lender is going to want to see. And we've had multiple builders. I would say conservatively 95% of the builders that have started building within this program have taken this data to the bank when they went and made their ask for the project that they were doing.
And the builders that I'm familiar with, I'll say from the North region, basically say you got to have land to build on and the infrastructure to do that.
Yep, infrastructure's a key.
Yeah, and it's not there. So in the North, I'll say.
I've worked with developers in different areas, not here. But the thing is that developers look at the land values. They look at the property in which what's the margin difference between what they can sell their target house at, and then that property value is part of that value. And property is available. It's just a matter of whether it fits into that market where they can make a reasonable profit at it. They don't go out and these are private parcels. They're not government parcels.
Right.
Or somebody else that bought it for them. But it all comes into that package of actually being able to afford a home, or what the cost of the home, I guess is a better way of putting it. And if that cost of the home with the land, they know how much they can spend for the land. If it's not available, then you're right, then it's not available. But there is a value there, in it has to be in certain areas. One of the things that kind of hit on with me that we were discussing after, I don't know, this is probably a month after we had talked about this, was our communities, i.e. the ones that have water and sewage available. It's not just Clinton. We got Dana, we got Perrysville. If you take it a stretch a little bit, let's just look at St. Bernice and Blandford. Those two communities are relatively close together. And if we look at regional sewer, which I believe that's going to happen out there one of these days, because it's going to be a health crisis out there. We've got high groundwater tables. We've got residents that are close together that are pumping sewage into county ditches. We get those complaints every year. At one of these points, that's going to be a problem. Well, if we would cite one of these areas and actually develop it where we can pull those two communities together, those communities don't pay for this just for themselves. If we can tie the land between those, then that value of that property becomes valuable in another respect into housing, and the road network is already there. So if we put the regional water and then we put the regional sewer in with that combination, and it takes the pressure off those communities or those individuals, where now you got subdivisions coming in, higher density populations where you can go to smaller lots. You don't have to have the 5-acre lot or a 1 acre or 2 acre lot.
Like the infrastructure you kind of talk about, like sewer and water and things like that, does this study address any of those issues?
No, so it does not. Okay. It doesn't look at that. That's really local data here, and that starts to go from a builder, or developer, and investor perspective of where would they like to build. We have seen developments go in rural parts, at least 5 or 6, I think, so far, that have been funded through some of our programs, where we're helping to, the local government's kind of subsidizing that cost a little bit and de-risking it for a developer. We've seen those where they're putting in wells and septics. Generally, they might do smaller areas, so you're not going to see like 40, 50 house subdivisions, but you might see 12 to 15 is what we've seen in kind of that range. I don't think we've seen anything less than 8. I think it's kind of been 8 to 15 is what we've seen where they're doing septic and wells. And generally once they have the market potential analysis data, those local governments have decided to hire us and to go through a comprehensive housing strategy, and that's where we take about a year and we start to build and say, okay, what would that program look like for your specific county? And it's different for every single county. And that's where they're usually putting some money into that and bringing it to the equation, and we create a housing program around that. Now, you wouldn't have to, because Ready Round 2, some of that money is going to get funded towards housing, and that will be a regional program. So you could start that way with no money in if you needed to go that way.
So is this study that we'd be doing here, is that more of what needs to be built, like what kind of houses, or where we should build these?
It's what really your market potential is for those different types of housing, okay, different income levels. I mean, it really does a thorough analysis. It's a lot of data, and you can go on thrivewestcentral.com and go under housing, and there's a resource library there, and it has every single one of these that we have done throughout the region all there, and it has all the information, so you can see exactly what you're going to get. And I'm happy to email it to you as well if you want to see a copy of any other communities. But we put it out there publicly because we actively want to recruit developers and builders from other parts to come here.
So I don't know if this is in your realm or not, but like we've talked about strategic plans for the county before. Is this like a part of a strategic plan? Can this be used for that? Are we better off with a strategic plan first? I guess do you know of any comparison towards?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a planner. I love planning. Planning, it to me is the key to being really successful. So you got to have a plan, otherwise you're just kind of making in the moment decisions. Mm-hmm. So you should have, as a best practice, a comprehensive plan for the county. This would be one piece of that. Okay. But your county comprehensive plan should be the sum of many parts. Mm-hmm. And there's quite a few things that really go into good thought out comprehensive plans. So it would be one piece of it, and you could take this information and plop it right in.
So we wouldn't have to pay for something twice.
Not necessarily, no.
I'm just saying, if we later on do a more of like the strategic plan area, the comprehensive plan, like we wouldn't have to do it again.
Yes, you wouldn't have to do this piece of that plan, it would be already done, and whoever is doing your plan would just add it right in. That, I may add, is something that we also do, comprehensive planning.
Do builders need that study to qualify for some of these programs you're talking about? Like the Ready and all that?
Generally, yes, because they wouldn't have a very successful application into going into Ready. If they wanted to build something here in Vermilion County, we wouldn't have any of that data to really say, hey, you're at your market potential, your home prices are where they should be, you're building the type of product. We wouldn't have any of that to compare it, so they would probably score relatively low with the committee.
The high-level study you said you did a year or two ago?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was that purpose of?
So that looks at what our whole region has the market potential. So we have, out of a 7-county region here, which is Vermilion, Vigo, Sullivan, Park, Clay, Putnam, and Montgomery County is the 7 region that we're attached to.
Okay.
And it starts to illustrate like what our whole market potential is if we were able to start to go down this road and achieve new development here. And so it illustrated that we were at 15,805 housing units annually is what our 100% market potential is. None of us, we could never build at that rate. It's just not possible. So we back into a conservative thing. But that regional analysis really focuses on us and like what kind of programs and capital stacking that we would need to bring to the equation, and it starts to help us kind of figure out what the tools and resources are that we need for our area. But it doesn't give that in-depth look what a builder or developer would need for that specific community that they're looking to go in. It's just 2 different types of study and analysis in with it.
For me, again, it's just not a very good use of tax dollars. Personally, that's just me. I mean, builders, investors, home buyers, as far as I always knew, they would decide if we need to build a new house or not.
But
And
you
we
have
do
to
not
have a marketing study to be
we
able
do
to
not
get
need
the
a marketing
financing
study
to
to
do it.
do what?
You have to have a marketing, basically a marketing feasibility study to make sure that for a bank to be able to loan them the money.
We never did have one of these houses I ever built.
But you built subdivisions, or did you build one house at a
No,
time?
just built homes.
This is for subdivisions.
This is for multiple units,
housing.
not for custom home.
It's not for custom
one time.
homes, it's for anything
An
that's
investment.
speculation
Yeah.
in with that.
There's a difference between speculation and actually having a buyer, or know that a buyer is sitting in the wings. If you want to build one house at a time, that's what we're doing now.
Aren't we already doing that up on the I-74 corridor deal? I mean, aren't we looking into housing up there as part of that?
That would be nice, that would be helpful to that.
You think we need this study to do that?
For spec builders, for people wanting to develop a subdivision prior to the
Right.
arrival
Having
of
buyers.
owners.
I mean, but why do we have subdivisions already sitting with empty lots?
Yeah,
I mean,
if you bring in some industry, then you might need to consider doing this study.
I think overall, like,
goes like this. Everything's intertwined.
I think I'd rather see us have a good comprehensive plan first, because we have no other plan besides that. I mean, we might have this little piece of the study, but we don't have the big piece, we don't have the big puzzle. I mean, we've done a study many years ago, no one uses it, no one likes it, and I guess, for me, I'd rather have the big picture first.
Before this?
I don't know. I mean, he says it's part of it, but I don't know.
Well, I agree with you. I don't think we're even ready for this, honestly.
If I may offer just a
Sure.
couple final parting words
Sure.
here. So not every county is always ready to do this whenever I come and talk. There's different phases in which you're ready to do this. We've modeled this after Fort Wayne. They're part of a 13-county region up there, and it's been pretty successful up there. We're actually outpacing them so far with our success and how long we've had it. But they still have counties up there that have just not really opted into this. And there's nothing wrong with that. counties are ready to go at their own pace and their own speed, and it's not a twist your arm kind of thing.
Right.
The way I've really kind of looked at this is one of the key things, I think, to any, and it depends on, I guess, on your outlook too, but one of the key things to local government is tax revenue. And you get tax revenue generally through residents living within your community. And if you have a declining tax base, then you continue to generate less revenue annually each year. But I haven't found each year where your expenses really ever diminish. They only continue to increase. So there becomes a chicken and the egg kind of thing when you really think about what is the next 5 years, 10 years, and beyond really looks like for your county, and what you can afford to do and what you can't afford to do, because you have a declining tax base. Housing, new housing, generates that new tax base into your community. And there may be lots of people who would love to live in Vermilion County. This might be quite the lifestyle that they want here. This is the community that they want. But unfortunately, what you have in your current housing inventory, think about it like this way. You're selling ketchup, and all these other buyers that you may never see, they really want mustard, or they want relish, or they want mayo, or they want something else. But you only have ketchup on the market here. And so they come and they look one time, they look on realtor sites, they look when they're looking for a new job in this area, maybe they're moving to a new job that's in Vigo County or Clay or Vermilion or Elanco or wherever, but they look here and they can't find anything, so they relocate to a different community. And once they set up shop, they're gone. But if you had that different variety within there, you have that potential.
That's why we're working
for
on
them.
the I-74 deal, though, to
That's
bring
right.
in.
Absolutely. I commend you on that.
houses and.
But
I
is
think
that somewhat of more of the comprehensive plan, to have all of those things in place, like to make them people want to live here too? Like, I mean, if we could have the housing study, but if we don't have the other aspects to get them to move here.
Our area planning has not decided to address our comprehensive plan. The one we have is not being addressed. They're saying they're filling in a hole or two. I've not been happy with that comprehensive plan from the very beginning. So if you really want to start with that, then you're going to have to really, somebody's going to have to start pushing on area plan. I think you made a comment that we have lots sitting here that are non-sold. But why? Because somebody didn't do a comprehensive study as to what people wanted and where they wanted it, and what did they want to be able to be built on there. If you got a lot sitting, it's because they're not in the right place, and it's not the right market that people here are interested in. And that's what these marketing studies do. They decide what type of range are we in, what type of housing we're in, and what type of lot are they wanting, and what type of area that they want to live in. If we got lots out here, it's because somebody picked a lot, and I don't, anyway, somebody didn't do their homework. If they're sitting there in this in the previous market, now with interest rates, sure, things are slowing down, but the previous 4 years, well, pre-2020, they shouldn't be sitting.
Well, I mean, I see once these lots, like if a developer chooses to buy them and they build a house, the houses do sell quickly. It's just the fact that people just don't want to buy an empty lot, they want to buy a house that's done. So does this study help in any way for those people who want to buy a couple lots?
It absolutely does, because it builds on speculation. So it's
But
helping the
but
builders then determine what that product is.
But I
And
thought
so
it
that
wasn't-
product's already done, and people just come along and they buy it.
But I thought it wasn't residential. Like, I thought
It
was
is
more-
residential.
It is residential.
So, I think the confusion there, or the difference is, so you're thinking like apartments and multifamily versus like maybe what you consider traditional residential housing. So
Single
all
family.
of that is residential housing
Okay,
in here.
so,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is like, is this gonna help the developer that wants to buy 2 lots in a subdivision and put 2 single-family homes? This isn't going to be.
It absolutely could.
Hurt them.
It absolutely could help them, because right now, there's a limiting factor there, and there's not a way that they can really see what that market is. And they can't de-risk it enough to say, hey, I'm gonna go buy these 2 lots and just build a couple houses or a duplex on speculation, because I just don't know what the market is. I don't know what to sell the house for. I don't know what the rent should be, if I'm gonna rent it. I don't, there's this unknown here. And this process is really about removing barriers and de-risking it, so people will start to want to build and ultimately create products that others want to live in. So, but if I can, I mean, I'm going to say, like, the comprehensive plan is super important as well, but I'm a planner. So I think you need all the plans, because the plans, and anytime you create a new plan and you start to work that plan, it will ultimately, at some point in time, lead to funding. A funding opportunity will come along if you have a good plan. But often what happens is funding opportunities come along, you don't have a plan, so therefore you lose out because you're not ready to get that. So it's, you know, there's not an either or. I think it's always just an and. You need this, and you need this, and you need that.
If you ask taxpayers, though, they'll tell you there's better ways to spend this money right now. And that's who I'm speaking for personally.
See, I think it de-risks it for other taxpayers, because when you have a dwindling population, but your expenses keeps growing, you have to pay more, and you have to pay more, and you have to pay more to keep things up, so your taxes eventually raise. But if you have a bigger pool, each person will pay less over time.
And I don't think your study is going to make things just snap the fingers and start building houses all over the place. It's not going to work that way. It's the way I feel about it. I mean,
When you build houses, did you just go out and start building?
no, they come to me and they wanted to build a new home.
There you go, a custom. You had to have somebody come in and actually ask you and tell you what they wanted.
Yeah, they wanted a new home.
And so how many did you build a year?
Oh, I 40 or 50 in 20 years, you know, not that many. But that's all, that was all that was out there for this county.
I'll say some of our biggest, we've had a lot of folks who were in your shoes throughout Vigo County and Clay County and even Sullivan, that very skeptical, just like you, and that's just part of the process. It really is. It doesn't even faze me, because I can sit here and I can smile about it, because all of those individuals that were such critics when we went into this, you know, a year and a half ago, I mean, vehemently, this is never going to work. It's a terrible idea. They are the biggest supporters of it right now. And I have a list of developers and builders that I can give you, and they would say, oh yeah, I didn't think this was going to work, but this really does work. And they are actively building as fast as they can, and I've maxed them out.
Was that in small urban areas like we are?
So
like, was that in like urban areas, or were we in rural like we are?
We are Clay, Sullivan, and Vigo counties
So
right
some of these
now.
that have worked have been in these little areas.
Say that one more time.
So like where you're saying it has worked for them, they have been in these local areas around us, not like in big cities like Fort Wayne or anything.
Oh yeah, no.
Okay.
Right, everything I'm talking about is all right here.
How does it affect, you know, with the industrial park and the theory of I-74 corridor advancing more industry perhaps? How does it, I mean, is it, you know, the chicken and the egg like you mentioned? Is it factories or companies don't want to go to the industrial park because they know that there's nowhere for 1,000 employees to move into? Or how does, you know, I guess what do you,
all of that.
I know it all happens at once, but what are we, because the industrial park, I mean, like the Rise, we've got the spec building sitting there. Nobody bought it, right? It's not being used. So is it because...
There's other reasons. That's a poor example.
Well,
This,
okay.
this is like a tool.
I understand
it's
what
another
this
tool
is.
in your tool
But is it a
pouch.
tool that we should use or not? Because
Right.
if we want to attract business, how do you attract it if businesses say we don't have housing, we can't locate there? Or
We have all the reasons. Let's look at Sullivan. Sullivan is proud to be the suburb of Vigo County. They'll take all the people that want to work in Vigo County as long as they live in Sullivan County, or they live in Sullivan for that matter. And Sullivan's been very successful, where Sullivan County has or not. Sullivan itself, the city, has been. And you look at how progressive they've been at looking at their lots and being able to bring those packages together with new homes and with existing homes that have been rebuilt. And it's amazing what they've been able to do in that town. If you can study that whole pattern of how they developed that and how they advertise that town. We can be doing the same thing here. We're not. We don't have a single town anywhere on par with Sullivan City, that is. And why not? It's because we don't have that initiative to be able to forward to housing. They don't have the industry in Sullivan. Sullivan County's building on some industry.
Well, there's an
now.
industrial park 5 miles north of their border.
Yeah,
so-
and we've got, we got ISU sitting, what, 5 miles from our border too, on the southern side. We got Danville on the northern side. We got Covington up there. We've got these, whether we have the industry here, actually, we're becoming a regional player. We're not a regional player yet in the housing market. Whether we get the industry, as we gain population, then there will be other opportunities here with commercial opportunities, commercial hotels, with eateries, et cetera, on down the line. That'll come with that. And I agree, our comprehensive plan is not good. It never was good from when we passed it. The only reason why we passed it is because you had to pay back the money to Okra. But that Okra plan was never built to actually have a true comprehensive plan.
Well, and I think, I kind of mentioned the strategic plan. I know like we've done economic development before, but that's been over a decade, I believe, ago. So is that, and I guess like most studies like this have come through economic development, and that's where I look at the funding kind of area. Like it's coming from general fund, where I think, are we better off using the economic development funds for things like this? So I guess that was not necessarily about the study, but kind of the funding source here too. Are we better off to do this through the economic development side?
I think so. I totally believe that funds should be coming from that end of the equation.
Because I feel like this correlates with the economic development side of things for funding wise on it for us versus, I'm sorry, that's not like anything with your study, but it's coming from general fund right now where we have that department set aside for things like this too.
But we also have area planning moving into zoning, so making zoning rules, but yet we don't have our comprehensive plan, in my book, in order. But yet we're already in the zoning portion of that part of it, and supposedly it's being combined in a little bit there, but it's not, it's an and. I agree, an and. If you want to take these in the order, our comprehensive plan will be outdated by the time we get to this point. And then we have to have a new comprehensive plan before we can start this. So we're chasing our tail all the time with this. But these things need to come together they can come together at the same time. They're working on a comprehensive plan now, a zoning plan. I don't know how that can't impress upon them to get a comprehensive plan more so in place and identify these strategic areas where we're going to have this development occur. I-74 is not part of that area plan. It's not part of the comprehensive plan. We're making it that way because area plan hasn't done it. So it's going to be pushed into it. I want to do the same thing at I-63 or at 63 and 163. We need to be doing the same thing there. We don't have enough resources at this point, enough people to be able to do these things, but it needs to be done there too. I have another thing at the Rise I want to start too. If I can't get enough people, there's not enough people of interest in the public sector here, or the private sector to come into the public sector to be able to push all these things forward at the same time anyway.
And I think that may be part of the hesitation here is we know there's a lot of things that need to be done, but there's not enough people to do them. So is this study going to be done and so-called not used? So maybe can we use it right away?
It's kind of
Once
pointless
it's
right
done?
now.
From my perspective, I think we need to do a lot of things concurrently.
Yeah.
I think the county needs a whole plan, like a whole county plan, and this done alongside of it. There's a huge misconception that people follow jobs, and it's so untrue. Jobs follow people, and so you've got to have your quality of life and your housing and all of these pieces for people to live here. And then when companies see that there's people here to work those jobs,
Right.
then your companies can come. But as of right now, when you look at Hoosiers by the Numbers and a lot of these data sources, our labor shed is terrible. People leave here to go to work. I get workforce labor shed reports every 3 weeks or so, and
you know, if you don't have the people here to work the jobs, you're not going to get the companies to invest here. So I think it's something that needs to be all done in one major group. We need to have an economic development plan, like an overall, whether it's strategic, comprehensive, whatever, it needs to have a plan. We need to know what the, you know, what does our leadership want to see happen? What does our constituents within everyone within the county, what would be accepted? What seems to be suitable? Where do we want to grow? What do we need? And then these additional studies that dive deeper into the pieces of that is where you can finally start to move forward and say, look, this is the plan, this is what we agreed upon, and then you work towards it. But just on the point, like Kelly said, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, these plans take many, many months for them to be developed, and then it takes time, you know? I mean, I started back in November, and of course, you know, as a one-man show since December, I'm working projects that were still happening then.
Resources.
Almost 7 months later, and you're still trying to provide them information. They're still trying to get, you know, details of what may or may not happen. So no, it doesn't happen overnight. You've got to have the data, you've got to have the information, and you have to have the overall plan to know how to go forward. And until everyone comes to agreement in that of what an acceptable plan is as a county.
So we're still talking two things, but this information is helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But maybe only if we have the big plan too.
Well, yeah, I agree.
I mean,
And if
where
you
does
have the people, the resources to use it. And now we're coming back to the Ernie Pyle. There's potential there, and that's what Britt is actually asking us. Basically, is
This study will
this
pay for
study
itself
will-
right there.
Yeah, there's a potential right there that we could move forward in at least one zone.
And you can capitalize on just like, I know there's some things I personally, coming from finance, I would tweak a couple things, but your Cayuga subdivision.
Right.
You know, having the infrastructure there.
Right.
And now there is a point of seeking out developers to come in and actually develop those lots.
Right. Mhm.
But Rick, you made a good point, you need the infrastructure, and if they can now figure out what's needed, there's a way to get your infrastructure plan, but that's only just a tiny piece of it.
Right. So I'm gonna make the motion, because I think we kicked it around quite a bit, that we approve the request for this residential market analysis.
On the general fund?
It's the only thing that was advertised.
Yeah. Unless we wanna postpone it and re-advertise it. Yeah.
You said possible for economic development to pay?
Yeah, we could make out of economic.
I don't know, I mean, is there money, and is that a good use of that money?
I mean, yeah, we just go into professional services that we just.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have.
They have a
budget for
no.
the plan, but that's not been approved to go forward with yet, so,
I think
we just have to.
we've been, the idea of the strategic plan being done has been like tossed around in economic development, so I think there is money set aside for that, but it hasn't been started even, so.
Tough part, though, is leadership, and as leadership changes,
Yeah.
everything changes.
But that's the point of the plan.
That's the point of the plan, and that's the reason why we have the other departments doing this. And
So do you want to keep your motion from the general fund?
well, we can put money in the economic development, but yeah, I'm just gonna leave it general fund.
Okay. I have a motion. Is there a second? With no second, the motion will die. Okay. So, it cannot be approved tonight. If it is of the interest of economic development to pursue it, they can bring a additional from economic development, or, I guess, Does anyone have any recommendations? So,
Thank you guys.
Thank you all
Thank you,
so
Ryan.
much. I really
Ryan, I
appreciate
appreciate
it.
your time this evening.
I'd
If
like
anybody
to-
would love to come down to Thrive, or we could even come up here sometime and do a smaller informal session, I'd even be willing to bring a home builder with me, that especially somebody who was a naysayer and, you know, now they're all about it. I'm happy to do that as well, but I really think this would benefit Vermillion County. Even if you just do some infill stuff scattered throughout the county, I mean, it really will add to your numbers and, you know, produce more tax revenue. So
We could do it a year or two down the road though, right?
here's a couple if you want to just pass these around. I just had these in my car from a previous meeting earlier today, but it's some of our data sheets of just kind of what we've been doing, so feel free to just check them out.
Thank you.
So we can address this a year or two down the road if we want to.
Anytime you're ready.
Okay.
Anytime you're ready.
So there's no, we have to do it right now. So if we could come up, and we decided to do a strategic plan, we want to do this in conjunction with it or part of it, we could always do it that way too. Is that great?
It is when you guys are ready. And I'm
Perfect.
here to support you whenever you are.
We appreciate that.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Tammy had to leave.
Or Tim.
That was the last of the additional appropriations. That is why we kind of moved new business to the front of the meeting. Old business, we have none, and we have one item remaining on new business. Item A on the agenda is an ordinance approving the purchase of land by the Board of Commissioners. This is in order for the commissioners to purchase the house they're wishing to buy in Cayuga, they have to have an approved ordinance. This ordinance would allow them to buy Eric and Nicole Shaughnessy's property at 216 North Eugene Avenue in Cayuga for the purchase price of $140,000. This ordinance has to be passed unanimously. If it's not passed unanimously, then a second reading of the ordinance will be required, with at least 4 votes of a yes at that second meeting. So, Tammy had to leave.
It's only unanimous consent of those present.
Okay.
But it does, so it's unanimous consent
So
of
it
those
could-
present.
okay.
But it'll still take 4 votes to approve, too, so, yeah, I guess you wouldn't have unanimous consent, but you only have 4 votes.
Okay. Since our last meeting, there was an inspection done on the house, and some questions have arose from that. Mr. Yoakum had to leave for work, and so he has suggested that if there's still concerns that we have a separate meeting over this before decisions are made. That was his message to me, that he is open to an additional meeting if needed. But they currently have no other options besides this.
Well, they haven't presented us with any other options.
Right.
Correct. That's more of a...
Well, actually, Tim did present me an option, which is what I mentioned earlier about the jail site, which I talked to the sheriff about that. That wasn't my idea, by the way, so, you know, temporary office facilities, using that property and then like a rented office unit like what they used during construction at the jail. That was something that Tim had mentioned to me as being an option. So that's why I pursued that also, just to have that as a, I mean, that was before the inspection. It was before I had visited the house personally. That was when that was mentioned, so just clarifying on that. He didn't mention it though as an option to everyone, just maybe me, I guess.
I think we need more discussion with the commissioners.
Agreed.
We have none. I think we need all 3 there.
I mean, there's definitely some items in the inspection report that are concerning. I mean, I feel like either we address them now or when we sell the house, they're gonna have to be paid for.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of really up against obviously there's a time factor involved. Park County Ambulance is adamant that July 1st there needs to be arrangements made. That's without question. However, this being really the only presented option, you know, it seemed okay at first. It was described as a, you know, nice location, nice house and everything, and I guess for the most part, you could look at it that way. As a home buyer, you know, I went and looked at it because I was like, well, I've never been there, so I want to educate myself and take a look at this. And I saw some things. I didn't do a detailed inspection. I mean, I went to actually look at the building where the ambulance was going to be parked. Like, what do we got to do here? And my question to the commissioners was, what are you going to do here? Because it won't, you know, I see some solutions. They're not going to be free, so how much more do we need to make this work? And Commissioner Yoakum said, well, we're not going to really, we don't plan on spending any more money on it. And I thought, well, okay, that means if the truck don't fit, then it just sits outside. So that's kind of what that, maybe it would be really cheap to modify the garage. I don't know, but that's what I was asking. So, and then the inspection, you know, the professional inspector looked at it and identified quite a few things wrong with it that I didn't know anything about because I didn't inspect the house. Outside of it, I looked around.
Lead pipes.
There's a house. There's a house, possibly. It's got galvanized pipes that need replaced. That was pointed out. There's a house. It has, you know, a garage, like a 2-car garage, which is pretty nice. That's where the employees park, because the ambulance won't fit in there. There's a shed, which, you know, sheds are $5,000 for a new shed of that size. They store documents in it. It's a pretty old shed, but that's what they use it for, storing, I guess, patient documents? Okay. I'm not sure I'd do that. I don't know I would do that.
Security.
Yeah, but anyway, and then there's the other garage, which is like where the ambulance would be parked. And it had one time had modified someone had modified the trusses to try to get a bigger door on. I believe that was done. At one time, one of the trucks might have fit. Now they don't. There was a concrete slab poured in front of the garage to make it nice, and it was at some kind of an angle, which caused the new truck, when it was backing in, when it hits that, it doesn't jive with the height or something. So that's the problem. So it can't park it in there, the truck that's there. So it would need further modifications. I don't think our new trucks are any shorter. They're not smaller. So definitely. But that was my question. How much is it going to be? What do you need? And then the inspection came back, and the issues were, and I'll just read them off. They're not nothing I made up. It's right in this, it's in this document. There were HVAC concerns. The inspector thought that the furnace was old, was probably going to need, it worked, but it was dated. The air conditioning system, the employees at the time, they thought that the air conditioning might not be working. I didn't really specifically see anything in there that mentioned that, but they felt like it wasn't cooling properly. But it's part of it, it's HVAC. So the electrical was the big one. There are serious concerns about the 3 panels. The main panel at the house and each garage sub-panel. The sub-panels were all wired wrong. The main panel's outdated. The sub-panels are outdated. There are various different things that would get this system flunked in an instant in an inspection and a new home construction in a place that does inspections. Electrically, it's not good. Tim expressed that, you know, $5,000 worth of equipment and somebody do the work, not a big deal. I don't know. I mean, I'm facing that right now in my house. So I kind of have a little feeling. I don't have much sympathy for someone that tells me an electrical system's okay and it's not going to be expensive to fix. I have actually zero sympathy because it is expensive and it's time consuming, and I'm dealing with it personally. Not that that matters on this house, but that's where I come from. The plumbing was pointed out as being some galvanized piping that may need replaced. Maybe not a huge expense, but an expense. The natural gas, not natural gas, it uses propane on site, a tank, but there are gas lines under the house that feed the various appliances. It was of a type that is not considered safe. If lightning strikes, can damage it and cause leaks. The garage on the roof that the ambulance would be parked in, it looked totally ruined to me. It looked like it needed replaced. in addition to the fact that the garage roof height needs to increase, whether that's putting another row of blocks under the wall or new trusses, whatever, that's going to cost. There was a radon study done, needs mitigation. It had too high radon levels, maybe in the crawl space or the basement, I think it was. Not a big expense, but a couple $1,000s to put one of those ventilation systems in. The garage would need heat. As Park County pointed out, it can't be below 70 degrees in the winter in there. So that doesn't have a heat system. So you need HVAC for that garage. There were some things on the deck. There was some tree work, professional tree trimming that needed done because the tree branches were causing damage to the house. There were some soffit issues, some moisture getting in the basement. There were quite a few things. What's it all add up to? I don't know. $20,000, something. It's going to be $10,000, $50,000. I don't know, but it's going to be something probably higher than 10, probably less than 50. So what are we looking at? I didn't get an answer, but it's going to add to the $140 purchase price. So do we have a $160,000 house? Do we have to do these things? Those are questions I have. Some of them you do. The electrical, yeah, they showed pictures of outlets that had fire damage to them. So that's in the report. Not good. Didn't know that last month. Didn't look at it last month when I personally visited. Yeah, there was a 28. Is when we didn't have this report last month. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we're buying. It has at least one garage and a shed that we don't need. But that's the way it is. That's how it existed, and we agreed that we could live with that. We'll purchase it. The price is right. But if we go to sell this, what is it really worth? They said we're offering below the estimate or the appraisal by $10,000, I think maybe.
That's today's market. That's not
today's market.
2 or 3 years when we go to sell.
So the idea was, we won't be there long. Well, what does that mean? A year, 2 years, 3 years, 6 months? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. The commissioners don't. And it's probably maybe not totally possible to tell. If you're looking for grants to build new ambulance stations, who knows? It could be years before you get a grant. You could be stuck here. So will we have to pay for all these things? Yeah, maybe not on day one, but at some point, when we go to sell it, we certainly will. I doubt that a seller is going to need it as bad as we do. Or, I'm not a seller. I doubt that a buyer is going to need this house as bad as we do. We need it in a bad way. But it has some catches to it, physically. That's going to cost money. And when I asked the question, the answer was, we're not going to put that much into it. We just want to use it for a little while and get rid of it. Well, will that work? I don't know. I don't feel comfortable with it at this point. What are the other options? This was the option presented to us tonight. There are no other options. The do-nothing option is not really an option. So what do we do? And that's when I got to thinking about what Tim had mentioned to me about the jail has some office space if you need to sit down and do paperwork. They have shower facilities.
I talked to Tim a month or so ago about it. I went to him after a meeting and I said, we've got showers. I've got office space. I've got a break area. There's room they come in and get out of the weather, whether it's too hot or too cold. They can do paperwork. They can watch TV. They can relax. The only thing I don't have would be overnight facilities.
Right.
I mean, I have overnight facilities.
This is jail. Can you take the bars off to make it feel better for us or something?
Curtains.
But nonetheless, so my comment was, well, for quite some time, well, let me back up. When Park County Ambulance burnt down, they operated out of 2 RVs for 2 years until they got theirs built. It's tough, but like my dad would say, he camped out for 14 years or 14 months in the Army, and no one seemed to care about that. So that's pretty tough. But living in RVs, probably not fun. I wouldn't recommend it. But is there something else we could do? I mean, with a combination of what they can offer and the fact that at one point the jail operated out of mobile office units for some time during construction, dispatch at least. I don't know about the rest of it. There were many up there. I had to go up there once and wait in line to get in one to talk to somebody. But So what does that cost though? That's rental, that's lease, that's money, you spend it, you don't get it back, but you also don't have risk. I know what's going to happen when I spend somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 for 6 months for a mobile office. That's what we're looking at. You know, a mobile office delivered and set up is going to cost, for 6 months, is going to cost us $15,000 to $20,000 to have it there. Something that could have sleeping quarters and a relaxation room or a day room or an office or however, whatever you want to call the rooms. That's an option. And to use, you know, a combination of what they can offer, what this can offer, and the fact that there may be some ability to put carports or overhead protection of the vehicles, that's an option.
You said we're gonna have heat in the winter though, right?
Yes, yeah. Fortunately, it's the summer right now, so we'll I know, yeah, I know it comes quick. I get it, but that gives us time. Right now, I don't have time.
I mean, what if something else pops up on the market in the next 2 months too?
But yeah, I mean, so the house. What about it? Is it any better than any other house in town that's for sale? Is it more expensive? Is it less expensive? I don't know. Would you better off buying a cheaper house that needs a new garage built and just build a garage that fits it to start with, and you don't need to do all the other stuff? These are all questions that come up, you know. So these office trailers, they can deliver them within a week. These mobile units, within 1 week, you tell them we want it. A week later, it's there, set up, and you're using it and you're functioning. But that raises a question. Well, if you're going to spend that kind of money for a 6-month duration, what do you do when that's done? Well, that's why as soon as this, you know, starts, the timer starts on getting 2 new stations built. We've got, seems like, the property selected. You know, everybody kind of agreed on that. The whole thing with the Ready Grant, I don't think it worked out. You know, we had architects working on it, and the actual ambulance station committee spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, and we had a great plan, and then this happened, and it sort of changed everything. So do we use the same sites, develop plans for much scaled down stations to just do exactly what we need, not an ounce more? Can we afford to pay that? Can we pay for it? Probably. With $600,000 that was dedicated toward matching a Ready Grant for one of the stations, could that build 2 stations at $300 apiece? It might be close. It might be more than enough. I don't know until we get some numbers. But I wouldn't want it to extend beyond. I don't want to keep renting office space and keep having them borrow rooms at the jail and everything. Temporary, fine. There needs to be 2 new stations built.
Yeah.
We worked on it. We just didn't get there with the grant. It didn't pan out. But I think we're there now. And
Mike, is there a place there at the jail where we could build a 1-bay garage? And if so, could you use it after we was done with it? Could you use some storage?
We could use space, yeah.
put the lawnmower in.
Well, seriously, the lawnmower, if you maybe.
We could always use space.
Is there, if we used your facility, we'd have to have something pretty close by.
We've got the Kwanzaa hut now, we're trying to get emptied out, but if anybody needs a desk or filing cabinet or anything like any.
Well, we might. That's just it, and that's another thing too.
We've got some equipment for the battery charger and some other stuff.
You know, these offices don't come with furniture, so you can lease the furniture with it. They'll bring desks and all kinds of things if you want to pay for it, but it's super expensive to do that. You're better off to get some desks and just go buy some equipment that they need. Totally better off. It's very, big companies on construction sites, they don't have time for that. They just pass it on to the purchaser of the project, so that works out for them. For us, it wouldn't work out, but getting the structure there is fine. It's just expensive, and you wouldn't want to do it forever. But you're gonna spend that much in repairs to the house, for sure, I think.
And never recoup that money.
I don't know if you could recoup it. I don't know what the house costs. I'm not a real estate person. I'm just not. I buy houses. I don't sell them, I've only bought 2, and I don't know if I like either one of them. But
well, none of it's cheap right now to build.
Yeah, I know. But until I see a builder that says, or when I see a builder and they say, yeah, for $300,000 we can build this, it's going to meet the need. It's commercial. Does it need to be commercial? Does it have to meet ADA? Yes. How far into ADA do we have to go with? All those things have to be answered by a builder. When can they do it? That's the other thing. You get a builder that says, yeah, I'd love to do it. I'll be here next year. That's not gonna work. It's a tight spot to be in. But here we are, and we've got to do something. I think if we work together, whether it's the plan I want or the one the commissioners want or a combination of the two, I mean, I think together we can solve the problem. But if, you know, Tim kind of told me tonight, he said, you know, if you don't approve this, you deal with it. I'm not. And I don't know that I can legally. I mean, Scott, can I go sign some contracts to start building some new fire stations? I don't think I
However you want, it wouldn't be valid.
That's the answer I'm looking for. So no, I can't. But I mean, obviously got to work together on this.
This does take, this is unusual because it does, you normally this kind of stuff is decided by the commissioners, but in this case you have a particular statute that says any property, real estate purchased by the commissioners in excess of $1,000. Can also be approved on, the terms and conditions have to be approved by the council. So most of the time they are free to if you give them $10,000 to buy widgets, they can go buy whatever widgets they want.
All day long, yeah.
Specific statutes that comes with real estate and commissioners. So it probably does, you know, they have been talking, I know they've been talking about this for a couple of meetings and talking to you, but it seems to me that some people think the facts have changed a little bit since the, you know, the original presentation.
So since we made the additional appropriation of the 140 last month, before we received the inspection report, without the ordinance, they still cannot purchase that property.
It'd be nice to have that inspection, all this stuff up front and said,
Now,
you know, we've already
the
got
ambulance
bids to
service,
fix this
you know,
and
they
fix that.
said, I said, what do you think about, you know, the jail site, this type of office, this type of setting, being at that location versus that location? They had no issues with it whatsoever. In fact, I thought they thought it was fine because it was, you know, closer, slightly closer to 36, which is a corridor for travel. You know, I don't do that part of it. That's just kind of the thought that I gathered from them. But you know, they're looking at locations in a scientific method. Where are the calls? Where are the roads? That's how they do it. That's the way they have to do it. So that's how they're doing it here. But historically, we've always had a station in Cayuga, and I don't disagree with that. I think.
I mean, I didn't think about this until somebody else pointed it out, but Cayuga is very north edge of Park County.
Yes. Lodi and Silverwood.
I never thought about that. Somebody said something about that.
If you go across two different counties.
Yeah, I mean, and I came across that way not too long ago, and I never thought about it, but that, I mean, from.
As soon as you come
Park
across the
County's
river,
perspective,
It's about a half mile north of
Silverwood and Lodi are.
Mountain Park, land.
Yeah.
So from Ian Park County's perspective, Cayuga is on the kind of, you know, far edge of where they would have it, as opposed to 36 might be a little closer.
And they've had interactions. The ambulances traveled to Park County from Cayuga for different calls. Fire departments definitely. They work together up in that end. Sometimes Park County can't get a truck up there. They call.
When Paul Lee had the service up there, I, as a, I'll say rider at the time, did go over into Lodi and take a call. So
yeah, it's happened.
We did that for them.
Yeah, so I think that's advantageous to Park County in some respects. It's definitely advantageous for us here. That's why we looked at the North Vermilion site, because I don't want to forget about, you know, Perrysville they do a lot of calls. Perrysville Fire Department goes out on a lot of calls. They get a lot of medical calls up there, and we're talking about the corridor and I-74. You're only going to get more. When they have a wreck up on 74, that's a long way to drive, even when you're in Cayuga.
Yep.
So 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's a long drive from Perrysville to I-74. I mean, it takes a while.
I live up there, and it took them over 30 minutes to get to me.
Yeah, so
she lives on the state line.
So I don't necessarily like the fact that we would have to locate something maybe in the middle of the county temporarily, but that's temporary.
Yeah,
And
it's temporary.
I mean, I think the North Vermilion site's great. You can get to the backside of Cayuga. You can avoid the train crossing the back roads. You can come around the front way, and you can hit the highway and get to Perrysville quick. I think it's a great site, but we need that. We need that building. We need it first. You know, Clinton. We have other options there for now, whether it be stay where we are. I believe there's options on the table to utilize some space in the Clinton Fire Station as a temporary measure, pay rent. to get the truck inside, to get the people living quarters sufficient for their use. I don't have all the details. It's what I've been told, but that's what I'm seeking are the details. I don't know if anybody else has any other details.
Well, I'm just gonna say, we have yet to hear, I'll say it personally, all three commissioners speak with us as a plan. And I think collectively, you know, as the leadership of the county, we need to collectively sit here and discuss this in a special meeting.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a special meeting real quick too, because like I say, you know, July 1st is July 1st.
If they were to pick another house or property to buy, it could not happen unless they have to have two appraisers sitting around.
But if Mike is willing to, I think, work with us in a short term, you know, here to provide 90% of the facilities they would need. And if we can get a rental thing here in a week, that does give us about a week to have some conversation. And maybe we only rent them for a month or two, but it allows us to maybe have some time to get a better plan under our belts and or maybe some estimates to renovate this house.
We may not need to even rent one of them if we can use the jail.
You know, the administrative role.
Sleep. Sleep's the only problem.
Can't put a bed in there?
I don't know. I mean, but these are like things I think we could feel that maybe we could talk about with the commissioners and open these
Right.
ideas up with them. Buy us a little bit of time because we are in a time crunch. And is this the best decision to make in a hurry? I don't
You know,
find this property is.
Commissioner Luther's worked on various aspects of this, especially with the trucks, and he had a plan that he spent a lot of time on trying to develop. What if we did our own ambulance? You know, there's a lot of work involved in that. I think Tim worked on housing, like, you know, that's what we've been presented with. I don't know if, personally, I don't believe RJ's in favor of this house in Cuga. I mean,
Right.
I spoke
I
with
mean,
him a
he's
little
gone
bit
on
about
record
it.
and said no.
He's a commissioner, obviously, and so that matters. And Britton has never told me one way or the other. Commissioner Luther hasn't said whether, I don't think, at least I don't recall it. You know, if he said, this is a great deal, we need this house. I know Tim has. And I don't doubt, you know, that Tim feels positive about this. I mean, I believe, you know, it was definitely an option.
Well, and the
But
option is
it's
also
a wise financial decision from our end.
if we take the time to talk to them. Realistically, this ordinance has to be advertised. Can we just table it? Or do we have to re-advertise it?
Well, you don't have to advertise, but
Or like
you,
the motion for the meeting?
you,
That would be it then.
you're required to approve,
Because we need 48 hours to advertise the
to,
meeting.
yeah, to advertise the meeting. And then if there were any kind of change to the purchase agreement, for example, if they came back and said, okay, we're gonna buy it for $100,000. Then we just need to spell that out, say, okay, you can buy this property, but we require you to do all the parts of this purchase agreement, title, insurance, and all that stuff, and pay no more than $100,000 or something like that. But it'd be better if they had that kind of worked out with the seller. If they wanted to buy a different property, it would take longer because they would have to get
Start
appraisals
over.
done.
Is this house free and clear of any issues?
I don't know. You'd have to get title work. I mean, it's subject to that if there were liens that popped up. I don't know if the title work's been done yet.
If we went down that road and that happened, we'd be in a bigger pinch because we're in a
Then
time.
you're out of time at that point.
And yeah, and if it comes up that,
I'm sorry?
Title work has been done, I haven't seen it, but I know that's been done.
It is required to provide clean title. If they can't get clean title, I mean, there could be a mortgage, but the mortgage just has to be paid. So, and normally that's fine, it's taken care of. So that would, that's kind of stuff's baked in. I think the major issue you guys seem to have is purchase price. If it were being sold to you for $40,000, seems like you might be more inclined to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a residential house, it's not an ambulance station, but it's working. So, you know, if it was a commercial structure that was definitely an ambulance station, we were buying it for real cheap, yeah, buy it, you know, great. But we're buying a residential house, which has, gonna have to be sold at some point. We're not gonna be there forever, so what are the risks involved in it? It's risk.
Not the best location either.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
You know, if Park County wasn't putting restrictions, you need to put this in and keep it warm, I mean, I don't know what they
They
do
don't-
for ambulances though.
They don't have the
What is it?
restrictions in place just because, I mean, if they don't have 70-degree temperatures when it's cold out, they lose products on that truck in terms of prescription medicines that go bad in the cold, also the hot.
Hot too, yeah.
So they have to provide a climate control for these, some sort of climate control, or temperature control
Well,
rather.
that ties up some of the risk over there, 'cause you're saying now you'll put an HVAC system in.
I have to put an HVAC system in
I
that
mean, that
garage.
house, just the price of this thing just keeps going up.
Right.
But you can't use the garage.
I can't get the truck in there yet.
Right.
I'd like to. I
So-
wish it did. I mean, I can get it in there, it's just not gonna be pretty. And
Let's have
I've
another
been
meeting
involved in
and work
those
all this out.
situations
Well,
It's gonna have a leak.
Is
if
there any
there's
interest in the ordinance
HVAC.
tonight then? I would need a
No.
motion. No motion? All right. So then that leaves us to the point of offering a meeting with the commissioners to discuss further a plan. We'll have to get with them to discuss and see if they have time to do that. So,
All three need to be present.
yeah, realistically, all three. So,
If you have, so how do we set that up? Because if we can't decide on it right now, because maybe they can't all three be there, if we set it up right now. do
we'll have to send some emails out and see if there's some dates, but, and we have to advertise,
Notice 48 hours.
okay, sorry, notice, give notice.
And we got 3 weeks to get all this
This room is
done.
booked Thursday, APC meeting, but Friday would be unavailable.
It does not have to be in the evening, it can be whenever.
Right. Well, if you want to do it during the day too.
Okay. All right, so we'll try to come up with time. We will give notice of that meeting and
And I'll meet,
move forward.
I will meet at any time with anyone about it and do as much as I can, in or out of this chair, as much
Appreciate
as
that.
possible. I mean, and I'm not the answer to, I don't have all the answers, but I will definitely work with anyone and everyone to get the answers. That's what I want to do here.
All right, we're gonna have to.
We don't have a choice. We have to make this happen because this opportunity, I mean, it's a crisis, but I think it's also a wonderful opportunity for us to rein in the costs of this service that's vital to this county.
I think
And-
working with Park County could be a true blessing in disguise in the long run for us.
Much cheaper.
They've been wonderful so far. So.
And they need equipment, they need trucks, and they need housing, and I'm willing to do anything we gotta do to provide that for the long-term goals of this county. If we've got the money, we need to be doing it.
Okay. Anything else? Any public comment?
I have one comment. What year was your house made? Or built, rather?
1800 and...
It's probably PVC pipe then.
Well, it is now, from where it comes in.
Yeah. I don't even think they had plumbing in 18. You may not have a lead problem.
Your outhouse may have it.
Wooden pipes.
Any other? Anything? None? All right. Motion to adjourn? Anybody?
Make a motion.
Well, second.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
You ever seen a wooden water main?
Where you going?
Back there.
Oh, sorry. I forgot.